Chapter 961. Are we going down to see Si Kongyao now? Tang Xiaoxi asked. No. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, we agreed to keep it a secret. Look at the streets, the prefectural governor's men are already there to welcome us. If we go down to Si Yao, we will definitely be recognized. I don't want Qin Yu, Gong Shangming, Duo La, and the others to know that we have also come to Tianji Empire. And then when are we going to see? A little later. We will wait for Yao to come find us. To everyone's disappointment, Jing Nan didn't come back to seek revenge. He didn't come back even after Lin Muyu and the others had finished their meal and left the restaurant. It seemed like Shiping City really didn't have many soldiers left. After returning to the relay station, they didn't rest but continued to cultivate. In order to become stronger, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi didn't slack off for even a single day. They each cultivated their own laws of laws. Lin Muyu's cultivation of the Supreme Godhead was slow, but Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's cultivation had made significant progress. One had the Overgod Godhead, while the other had the Immortal Godhead. The power of light and fire had become more profound, which was gratifying. A sparkling Godhead slowly rotated in his palm, turning into strands of divine power that surrounded the three of them. This Godhead came from Bailey Qin, so it was easy to imagine how pure a God Emperor's Godhead was. If it was cultivated by one person, it would be impossible to completely refine it. Fortunately, Lin Muyu was used to cultivating with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. Therefore, the three of them could refine and absorb the power of the Godhead together, which made this Godhead much more valuable. But even so, the powerful divine power contained in the Godhead couldn't be completely refined in 1 or 2 tries. In the past half a month, the three of them had been refining it constantly, but this Godhead still had about half of its spiritual power stored. Slowly after they finished cultivating, they still had Han Shu and Bai Minghuan's Godheads to refine. As for Fu Yu and the others' Godheads, they had already given them to Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and Situ Senator. As for Fu Yu and the others' Godheads, they had already given them to Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, and Situ Senator. After an unknown period of time, a voice suddenly appeared in Lin Muyu's EC. Big brother Yu, are you still there? Lin Muyu replied, Yao, I'm on the 2nd floor, room number 1. I'll be right there. Lin Muyu stood up and said, Xiaoyin, Xiaoxi, Yao is here. The two beauties immediately tidied up their clothes. This was their first official meeting with Si Kongyao, so they had to be formal and dignified. They didn't want others to think that the Shattered Cauldron Realm's Great Empress and Princess Funguo were too vague. Creak. The room door opened and Si Kongyao, dressed in martial attire, stood at the door. She looked at Lin Muyu with a smile and said, Long time no see. And long time no see. To Lin Muyu's surprise, Si Kongyao threw herself into his arms and said with a bell-like smile, Big brother Yu, I missed you so much. You're finally back. Shu. Behind them, Lu Bai and the 7 or 8 high-ranking generals of the Baizhe mercenary team gasped in unison. All along, Si Kongyao, the true owner of the Baizhe mercenary team, had always been swift and decisive. Everyone thought that this lass was already a tomboy, but at this moment, they realized that she was actually a young lady. At this moment, Si Kongyao blinked her big eyes and saw that there were 2 devastatingly beautiful women behind Lin Muyu. She was stunned and broke away from Lin Muyu's embrace. These 2 are. Qin Yin smiled and said, I'm Qin Yin. Tang Xiaoxi said, Tang Xiaoxi. Immediately, Si Kongyao's face turned red. She looked at Lin Muyu with a blaming look and said, Why didn't you tell me that the Empress and Princess Xi are here? Oh, it's so embarrassing. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile and said, You didn't ask. It's all your fault. Si Kongyao hurriedly bowed and said, Yao pays her respects to the 2 sisters-in-law. When she said this, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were instantly elated. This form of address sounded so comfortable. Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, Come in, it's travel-worn outside. Yes. Lu Bai walked in with a group of generals. Then he knelt on one knee and said, Greetings, Your Highness Yu. Greetings, Your Highness Yin and Princess Xi. Get up. There's no need to be so polite. Lin Muyu raised her hand and everyone stood up. Lin Muyu could also see that there were 3 Saint Martial Venerables among this group of generals. Si Kongyao was indeed skillful. The combat power of the Baizhe mercenaries was extraordinarily strong. Bai, how are you? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness. Oh, I'm not Your Highness anymore. There's only one Highness in the Qin Empire now, and that's Xiao Yin. My current position is the Marshal of the 3 armies and the commander of the Longdan Army Camp. Longdan Army Camp. One of the young generals said, Is it the Longdan army camp that defeated the Flowing Dawn army, the Long Dawn army, and the Tsangyan army? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. The young general's eyes were burning. Marshal, the Longdan army camp not only shocked the Broken Cauldron world, but it's also famous all over the world. Everyone in the entire celestial pole continent knows the name of the Longdan army camp. Everyone says that in terms of combat power, the Longdan army camp is worthy of being the #1 army in the world. Lin Muyu smiled and said, "There's no need to be envious of the Longdan army camp. The Bai Zhe mercenaries are also an army established by me, Lin Muyu. Every one of you is equivalent to a member of the Longdan army camp. Sooner or later, the Bai Zhe mercenaries will join forces with the Longdan army camp." Really? Yes. That's great. All the generals were overjoyed. After all, the reputation of mercenaries didn't sound so good. Just by hearing it, one would know that they were people who exchanged their lives for money. However, the Longdan army camp was different. Every soldier with a sense of honor would feel honored to join an army like the Longdan army camp. At this moment, Si Kongyao said, "Brother Yu, why are you all staying here? Follow me to the city lord's residence. I've already obtained the seal of Shiping City. From now on, Shiping City and the entire Xishan province are ours. Why are you all staying in such a small place?" "No need." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "This time I don't plan to show my face in public. I'll keep as low a profile as possible. Don't let anyone know that I'm in the celestial pole continent. I'll give advice and suggestions to the Bai Zhe mercenaries. Don't worry, Yao." "Yes, that's good too." Si Kongyao pondered for a moment and said, "We'll probably set off for East Com City after resting for a day or two. Why don't we do this? Brother Yu and my 2 sisters-in-law change into the clothes of the strategists and move with the army? The people of the Celestial Empire will only pay attention to how many war horses and elite soldiers we have. They won't care how many strategists we have." "Yes, that's good too." The heavy snow was still falling. Suddenly, a violent voice came from downstairs. "Brat, get out here. Your grandpa Jingnan is here to settle the score with you." "Jingnan?" Lu Bai was stunned. "Isn't that the nephew of the prefectural governor Jingsho? What is he doing here?" "He's here to settle the score with me." Lin Muyu smiled helplessly. Si Kongyao was confused. How did brother offend someone like him? "I can't help it. Your 2 sisters-in-law are too beautiful." Lin Muyu laughed out loud. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi blushed. They didn't know how to respond. Lu Bai clenched his fists and said, "Who cares? Lin General, you wait here. I'll go down and deal with this brat first. Shiping City is now our world. How long does he think he can do anything?" "There's no hurry. I'll go and take a look. I don't want him to hurt the innocent." "Yes." Lin Muyu pushed open the door and jumped into the courtyard. She floated down with the snowflakes and saw torches in front of her. This time Jingnan had brought a lot of people with him. There were at least 50 of them, and they were all dressed in military uniforms. Many of them were the guards of the prefecture. The strongest one could even condense the king's fighting flame. "Brat, you have guts." Jingnan fiercely pulled out his sword and pointed it at Lin Muyu. He said, "Don't you know whose territory you're in? How dare you be so arrogant? You're simply courting death. Guards, this man is a human trafficker. According to the laws of the Tianji Empire, he should be executed immediately. Kill him and find the 2 innocent women." "Yes." A group of guards pulled out their weapons and stepped forward. Jingnan's eyes were full of pride. "Where's your arrogance? Aren't you very good at fighting? I'd like to see how you can defeat my 100 elite guards." Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. At this time, Si Kongyao's voice came from upstairs. "Guards, surround him and disarm." Rustle, 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 the sound of footsteps was endless. Countless Bai Zhe mercenaries rushed out from every corner of the inn, the sides of the street, and the alleys. They raised their torches and pointed their bows at Jingnan's people. In the blink of an eye, they surrounded the 100 people. Lu Bai and a group of captaincy also pulled out their swords and surrounded Lin Muyu, pointing at Jingnan and his people. Under the shining light of the torches, the 3 golden stars on the necks of Lu Bai and the other generals were very bright. In the celestial pole land, a person with a 3-star military rank was a lieutenant of at least 5,000 people. This also meant that the status of this group of people was higher than Jingnan. Moreover, there were more than a dozen of them. What kind of lineup was this? Lin Muyu smiled lightly. "With these people, I can afford to offend you, right?" Jingnan seemed to be petrified for a moment. What's going on?" Si Kongyao descended from the sky. Jingnan immediately knelt down. "Greetings, Greetings, eldest Miss Si Kongyao. Si Kongyao said coldly, what is young Master Jing Nan doing here in the middle of the night? I didn't know eldest Miss was also here. I just came to find a human trafficker? Human trafficker? Si Kongyao sneered. There are no human traffickers here, only distinguished guests. Guards, disarm and throw Jing Nan into the dungeon. He will be sentenced to 1 year. The reason is, he offended me. The rest of you become Baizai mercenaries and follow me into battle. Yes. Jing Nan's face was ashen. He looked at Lin Muyu from afar. Only then did he understand that the youth in front of him was not someone he could afford to offend. As for the two beautiful women, how should he put it? In this world, those stunning beauties that could cause the downfall of a city and country were generally not people that ordinary people could touch. Although it was cruel, this was the truth. Chapter 962. On the 5th of December the sky cleared up. Baizai's 180,000 mercenaries left Shiping City in a grandiose manner, leaving less than 5,000 people to defend the city. At the same time they took 10,000 soldiers from Shiping City to serve as backup troops. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were mixed in with the strategists. They had all changed into black robes. All the strategists were hidden in the dark, which was why they wore black robes. They never showed their faces to others. However, a sword hilt wrapped in black cloth protruded from Lin Muyu's cloak, making people feel somewhat stifled. Even though she was a strategist who could fight. She wasn't weak like the others. Si Kongyao rode alongside Lin Muyu. The army passed by in a grandiose manner. The armored cavalry opened the way, and the grain carriages escorted the rear. As they were fighting on their own, there was no need to bring too much rations. After entering East Kham province, the local government would prepare rations for the army. The cold wind howled, causing the war flag to flutter. Si Kongyao narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, Brother Yu, we just received news that Qin Yu's army has surrounded East Kham City. Gong Xiangming has led nearly 300,000 troops to defend East Kham City. There are also nearly 200,000 scattered troops outside. Qin Yu has 500,000 troops surrounding the city. What should we do? If we attack from the inside and outside, we might have a chance of winning. Doesn't Qin Yu still have nearly 400,000 troops that he hasn't used? These 400,000 troops can attack us at any time. If we really go to help them, I'm afraid we'll become their main target. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Besides, Yao, you and Bai worked hard to raise our 180,000 troops. This time, I don't plan on letting your 180,000 troops join the main battle. We're not fighting the main battle? Si Kongyao was shocked. Even Liu Bai was stunned. Lin General, if we don't fight head-on, how can we defeat the enemy? Qin Yu's million-strong army isn't paper. They can be blown away with a single breath. If we don't bleed them, I'm afraid they won't know how powerful they are. It's impossible for them to retreat from East Kham province. I know. Let's talk after we enter East Kham province. Have we sent out our scouts? They've been released. Give me a detailed map of Qin Yu's army's distribution and supply routes within 3 days. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi leisurely rode on her horse as she looked at the scenery on both sides. With Lin Muyu overseeing the Baizai mercenaries, she didn't need to worry about anything. After all, Lin Muyu had fought in wars for so many years. She was talented enough to be the master of the generals in the Heaven Pole continent. As long as Lin Muyu wanted to win, it was impossible for her to not win. Qin Yin would also secretly open her eyes of blazing dawn to look at the surrounding scenery from time to time. She had already learned to control the domain power of the eyes of blazing dawn. Although she hadn't reached the point where she could control it freely, she was able to open her eyes and no longer launch indiscriminate pressure attacks. At the very least, when she wasn't hostile, the people around her wouldn't feel too much pressure. So the snowy scenery in the Heaven Pole continent is also so beautiful, Qin Yin whispered. Lin Muyu also lowered her voice and chuckled. Yes, but Xiaoyin, don't worry. Sooner or later, every inch of this land will belong to us, and the entire Heaven Pole continent will also be included in our Great Qin's version. Qin Yin trembled slightly. Brother, have you really decided to go on an expedition across the sea? Yes, but we still need some time. At most 3 years, at least 1 year. We need to make sufficient preparations before we can make a decision. Lin Muyu looked straight at her and said, Xiaoyin, do you think I've changed? Yes, a little, Qin Yin nodded. If it was in the past, brother, you most likely wouldn't take the initiative to attack others. There's no other way. If we attack first, we'll be controlled by others. Lin Muyu heaved a sigh of relief, her gaze deep as she said, When I know that the opponent will deal a fatal blow, I can't be soft-hearted anymore. I don't want the people I care about to die one by one and leave me. Yes, Shaoyin will do her best to support you. After we're unified, let's ascend? Brother Demon Emperor and Fairy Ziyao in East Heaven will definitely look forward to our ascension. After that, our names will be listed in the Heaven Realm's immortal register. Yes. 3 days later it started snowing again. The army finally entered East Com province and was less than 500 kilometers away from the battlefield in East Com city. However, Lin Muyu instructed Si Kongyao to pass down in order not to rush to East Com city at full speed. Instead, they would rest once a day in the provinces and counties along the way. They would only travel a distance of 25 kilometers a day. At the same time, they would constantly send out scouts to gather information on the battlefield. Furthermore, King Lanji gifted the Bai Zhe mercenaries with 10 wolf falcons and beast tamers, which played an excellent role as scouts. In the evening, Xian County. Xian County wasn't considered rich. It was only a small province in East Com province. It had a population of nearly 200,000, and its main industries were farming, fishing, and hunting. Si Kongyao had the princess token, so she was warmly received by the governor of Xian County. When the army arrived outside the county city and set up camp in the evening, a large number of provisions, armaments, cattle, and sheep were delivered from the city. Therefore it was easy to slaughter pigs and cows to reward the army. The central tent of the Bai Zhe mercenaries was heavily guarded. Even the governor of Xian County wasn't qualified to enter. However, when Lu Bai opened the tent door and walked in, he found Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Si Kongyao, and the others cooking beef hot pot. They had received a large piece of beef thigh from the governor of Xian County, and it was just right for the hot pot. Lu Bai sat down honestly and beamed. Wow, I didn't expect there to be delicious food for dinner tonight. Si Kongyao glared at him. Did you complete the mission? Yes. Lu Bai took out a scroll and handed it to Si Kongyao. Si Kongyao handed it to Lin Muyu and said, Brother, you take a look. Ask me if there's anything you don't understand. I've been to East Com province many times, so I'm very familiar with it. Okay. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged and unfurled the scroll with a whoosh. It was a large map of East Com province and Tianji province. On it, red ink had been used to mark the defenses, camps, manpower, and supply routes of the 900,000 troops under Qin Yu's command. Lin Muyu pondered for a long time before slowly putting down the map. What's the matter? Qin Yin asked. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. Qin Yu is indeed Qin Yu. He can't be compared to those muddle-headed emperors like Qin Yi, Baiming Yuan, and Shi Yuan. Look, his 500,000 troops have surrounded East Com city and blocked all the exits. The other 400,000 troops are divided into 8 groups. 3 of them are in the southeast of East Com city to guard against reinforcements from the Blackstone Empire. The other 5 are in a pentagon formation to the north of us. The 5 armies can cooperate with each other at any time. These 250,000 troops are used to stop us. Si Kongyao narrowed her eyes and said, These 250,000 troops are the Terminus Earth Corps, led by Zhou Binlong. In the army of the Celestial Empire, apart from the Terminus Heaven Corps led by Dongqing Wang, this Terminus Earth Corps is the second best. Qin Yu really thinks highly of the Bai Zhe mercenaries by sending the Terminus Earth Corps to deal with us. At this time, a dragon's roar suddenly came from above. It's a dragon knight. Tang Xiaoxi was slightly startled. Qin Yin gently moved her palm, and a faint divine luster surrounded her jade-like fingers. She asked, Big Brother Yu, the Bai Zhe mercenaries don't have a dragon knight. It must be the Celestial Empire's dragon knights spying on us. Should we take care of them? No need. Lin Muyu shook her head. Don't worry about it. If it wants to watch, let it watch to its heart's content. Let's continue eating. Unless it's absolutely necessary, the 3 of us shouldn't expose ourselves. I don't want to officially break off relations with Qin Yu for the time being. After all, we are still allies on the surface. Si Kongyao started to feel uneasy. She frowned and said, Then? Big Brother Yu, we are less than 400 li away from the Terminus Earth Corps. Their cavalry can rush here in a day and night. Are we really going to sit here and wait for death? Yao passed down the order to strengthen the defenses. After setting up camp, we must immediately dig fortifications and bury antlers. The spear soldiers will be stationed at the periphery. The archers will be behind them. The cavalry will be in the middle. Even if they rush here to attack, they will be tired cavalry. We have the spear soldiers and archers. Why would we be afraid of a tired cavalry? Si Kongyao smiled gently and nodded. Yes, I understand. At that moment, Si Kongyao felt that Lin Muyu was truly an exceptional general. It was as though as long as he was by her side, victory would be in her grasp. There was nothing to worry about. When Lin Muyu gave the order, he revealed a calm and confident look. This was something that Si Kongyao had never seen before. The young lady's heart thumped, but in front of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, Si Kongyao could only control her emotions. So be it. Calling someone I like brother and sister is better than being strangers. Lu Bai rubbed his hands together. Let's eat hot pot. Let's eat hot pot. Lin Muyu glared at him. What are you eating for? Go and give a new order before eating. Ah? There's another order? Yes, send the scouts out again. Why, haven't we already found out the details of the army? The distribution of rations, the amount of rations stored, the amount of rations being transported, and the details. I need all of these. If we just do a rough investigation, it will harm the entire army. Yes, this subordinate understands. Lu Bai was solemn. He placed the helmet under his armpit and bowed before leaving. Qinin was surprised. Big brother, what are your plans? Rations, it's still rations. Lin Muyu muttered to herself. The Celestial Empire's 900,000 people entered Eastcom province, but they didn't manage to conquer any of the cities along the way before they surrounded Eastcom city. Therefore, most of the Celestial Empire's rations have to be transported from the mainland. However, the two places are separated by such a huge forest of no return. Their rations route must have been approved by the Demon Empress, so we just need to cut off the rations route and secretly send people to burn their granaries. Think about it, how much rations do 900,000 people need to eat in a day? In less than 5 days they will have to kill their horses to appease their hunger. In less than half a month, I'm afraid the Celestial Empire will collapse without a fight. Once they flee without any cavalry, our cavalry will be able to chase after them. 900,000 troops. It'll be good enough if half of them can return to the Celestial Empire. Si Kongyao's little mouth was agape. This was the true definition of a famed general. This was the penetrating insight that a famed general should have. Lu Bai and the rest were only thinking about the battle before them, but Lin Muyu was already thinking about the battle that would happen a month later. The difference in their ability to grasp a war was like heaven and earth. Chapter 963. I'm afraid it won't be easy to cut off the supply route. Tang Xiaoxi frowned. Wouldn't Qin Yu have predicted this? Also, since the Monster Empress has decided to cooperate with the Celestial Empire, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to cut off the supply route. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. But Qin Yu would never have predicted that. I know Nushir. Also, I know that Nushir only wants the survival of the Monster Empress. Nothing else is important. Since Qin Yu can cooperate with Nushir, then we can too. Let's not talk anymore. Let's eat. The army can advance slowly. Leave the rest to me. After a full meal, everyone responded. Lin Muyu, Qinin, and Tang Xiaoxi shared a tent. There were 3 wooden beds in the tent, and the quilts were warm and dry. In the middle of the night, Lin Muyu suddenly sat up and grabbed the Shenyuan sword beside the bed. What's wrong? Qinin was a light sleeper. She opened her eyes and looked at him. I want to see Nushir. I knew it. Qinin smiled. Since you want to go, I'll go with you. It's safer this way. There's no need. Nushir is very cautious. Xiao Yin has the blood of a battle angel flowing in her veins. Once she finds out, it will cause unnecessary misunderstandings. Don't worry, even if I can't defeat her, I can still leave. Don't forget that I have the divine book of the law of space with me. All right then, Qinin nodded. Xiaoxi and I will wait for you here. Early, you must be careful. Yes. Lin Muyu stood up and disappeared in a flash. He appeared in the sky 10 miles away. He suppressed his aura to the level of an ordinary person and spread his spiritual sense to search for the Monster Empress Nushir's aura. The cold wind was biting cold. After flying for nearly 500 miles, his heart suddenly moved. He found a tyrannical demonic aura somewhere in the east, so he quickly flew over. At night it was snowing heavily. But on top of the hill stood a beautiful woman, holding a peeper in her arms. Her cloak was covered with snow. She looked up at the sky, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. Suddenly, the corners of her mouth curled up, revealing a happy smile. You're finally back. Whoosh! With the flying snow, Lin Muyu slowly descended and stood straight in front of Nushir. Lin Muyu? Yes, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu said cheerfully, You seem to know that I would come? That's right. The female assassin looked at him with a pair of penetrating eyes and said, I don't know when you will come and who you will bring, but I know that you will definitely come. Let's get straight to the point. Lin Muyu brushed off the snow on his shoulder and said, Your Majesty is cooperating with Chen Yu. I believe that Chen Yu must have offered a generous bargaining chip. Otherwise, Your Majesty would not agree to cooperate with humans. The bargaining chip is not considered generous, but there is a sharp knife placed on the neck of my demon spirit race. What kind of sharp knife? Flames. Lin Muyu was startled, but he was an intelligent person and immediately understood what was going on. He said, If Your Majesty does not agree to Chen Yu's request, he will send people to burn down the forest of no return? Your Highness, you is indeed smart. Nu Shi smiled faintly. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sigh. What kind of person is Your Majesty? You have never cared about worldly affairs and monopolized a region. Now that you are being threatened by someone like Chen Yu, I believe it must not be a good feeling. A great humiliation, Nu Shi said word by word with a murderous look on her face. Lin Muyu smiled and said, It's all right. I am here. We can talk about a new cooperation. Nu Shi smiled. Your Highness, you tell me first. What bargaining chip do you have? According to what I know, the Shattered Cauldron realm can't even protect itself now. Qin Xian established a nation and started to isolate you and Empress Qin Yin's power. The allied forces of the feudal vassals have become the so-called nation army. You can't even protect your throne, so how are you going to cooperate with me? I have another bargaining chip. Lin Muyu reached into her pocket and took out a token that was emitting a faint golden radiance. She said, Your Highness, do you recognize this? Nu Shi was slightly stunned. The commander token of the Bai Zhe mercenary troop? That's right. The Bai Zhe mercenary troop is my private army with a total of 180,000 soldiers. They have sufficient military equipment and rations. If I have the Bai Zhe mercenary troop as a bargaining chip, does Your Highness think that we can talk about cooperation? Nu Shi smiled. Alright, Lin Muyu is indeed Lin Muyu. No one would have expected you to make such a move. It's good that you kept the Bai Zhe mercenary troop. I'm afraid that a mere Bai Zhe mercenary troop will cause chaos in the celestial pole continent. Please tell me, Your Highness, how do you want to cooperate? Lin Muyu was not in a hurry to answer. Instead, she took out an umbrella from her cosmos sack and opened it with a swoosh. She walked forward to shield the demon empress from the wind and snow. She smiled and said, This place is really not suitable to talk about such a big matter. Nu Shi couldn't help but smile. She felt warmth in her heart. She was the demon spirit king and was born with unparalleled beauty. However, no man in this world dared to treat her well. Lin Muyu was the first. More importantly, Nu Shi didn't dislike this man. Instead, she felt that he was very interesting and she was willing to get close to him. Thinking of this, Nu Shi's face suddenly turned red. She couldn't help but curse herself in her heart. She was simply crazy. However, Lin Muyu didn't notice Nu Shi's abnormality. She continued, Your Highness gave up a supply route in the Forest of No Return, allowing the Celestial Empire to pass through the Forest of No Return. This is the biggest bargaining chip that Chen Yu can use to cross the Forest of No Return to attack the Tianji Empire. Without this supply route, I'm afraid that Chen Yu's million-strong army will be nowhere to go. Nu Shi was stunned. Your Highness, you wants me to cut off the supply route? You don't have to do it yourself. The Bai Zhe mercenaries can do it for you. All Your Highness has to do is order the demon spirit army not to attack the Bai Zhe mercenaries. I don't even need Your Highness to use a single soldier to help me. You can just watch from the sidelines. Then, what benefits does our demon spirit race have? Too many. Lin Muyu smiled and said, First of all, you don't have to be threatened by Chen Yu anymore. Once Chen Yu's army is defeated, he won't even have the strength to set fire to the Forest of No Return. Secondly, the demon spirit race lives in the forest all year round and is constantly under threat. Your Highness can take advantage of the situation and attack the Tianji Empire's Huiyuan province. Taking down Huiyuan City will become the foundation of the demon spirit race. Thirdly, when my great Qin's million-strong army sweeps through the Celestial Pole continent, Your Highness can join hands with me to rule the Celestial Pole continent. Nu Shi's shoulders slightly trembled. Lin Muyu's words had greatly exceeded her imagination. Your Highness, you wants my demon spirit race to participate in the struggle for hegemony in the Celestial Pole continent? Your Highness, can you avoid it? Furthermore, the demon spirit race is already involved. You helped the Celestial Empire to attack the Qinji Empire's Yanji Corps, causing the Yanji Corps to be defeated and Zhang Cheng to be killed. Even if you don't attack the Qinji Empire will take revenge sooner or later. Zhang Cheng is the sacred martial god, an existence second only to Sikong Ming. Your Highness, do you think that Bai Ming Yuan will let your demon spirit race off? Nu Shi's shoulders violently trembled. Perhaps it was because of the cold, or perhaps it was because of fear. If Bai Ming Yuan really wanted to take revenge, the price would be too great. Lin Muyu continued, once the supply route is cut off, Qin Yu will definitely panic. He will then give the order to attack the city. There will definitely be a decisive battle between the Celestial Empire and the Tianji Empire. As long as both of them suffer heavy losses, Your Highness can take advantage of the situation and seize the Huiyuan province. With the Huiyuan province and the Xishan province occupied by the Baizhe mercenaries, it will be enough to establish a foothold in this celestial pole continent. Nu Shi nodded. After thinking for a long time, she raised her head and smiled. Has Your Highness you already thought about the future for my demon spirit race? That's right. Lin Muyu's eyes were like torches as she looked at her, because I have long regarded Your Highness as an ally. Your Highness wants to enjoy peaceful days and so do I. However, only after eliminating the dissidents will there be true peace. What Your Highness has to do is very simple. It's just a choice. Choose me, Qin Yu, or even Bai Ming Yuan. Whoever you think will be the final ruler of this continent, you can choose him. Nu Shi's eyes were tranquil. After a few seconds she said, Can Your Highness you show me your sword? Yes. Lin Muyu unsheathed the Shenyuan sword. Nu Shi held the divine sword, her body slightly trembling. She said, Such a powerful morality. This is? The Shenyuan sword, the weapon that Brother Demon Emperor gave me. The Shenyuan sword. Nu Shi raised her head and looked at him. This is the sword of a king? Lin Muyu was stunned. Why do you say that? Nu Shi took a step back and knelt on the ground. Demon Emperor Nu Shi is willing to respect Lin Muyu as the king. As long as the king points, the demon race will go through fire and water. Lin Muyu hurriedly reached out to hold her arms. Get up, Your Highness is too kind. Nu Shi stood up and smiled. Then the alliance has been formed. It seems that Your Highness has also made a choice. Yes, with the Eastern Heaven Realm's 7 luminaries Demon Emperor as your backing, Your Highness you will eventually become the king of this plane. This little girl is just adapting to the circumstances. Lin Muyu looked at her deeply. He knew that his charm had not reached the point where it could confuse the Demon Emperor. Nu Shi was very smart and her choice would be the wisest. A land of exile. Dark clouds rolled in the sky as if a heavy rain was coming. On the ground, countless creatures looked up at the sky. They knew that it rarely rained in the land of exile. Even if it rained, it was just acid rain contaminated by radiation. Thunder rumbled and a bolt of lightning tore open the sky. The exiles looked up at the sky and saw a beautiful woman with 6 wings behind her descending from the sky. When she landed in the town, the 6 wings disappeared on their own, as if they had never appeared. She looked around and stepped into a tavern. Give me a glass of strong wine. She pressed a gold coin on the counter. The owner of the tavern was a bearded man who had lost an eye. He was slightly startled, then accepted the gold coin and said, Please wait a moment, it will be ready soon. The beautiful woman wore an exquisite angel costume and slowly sat on a seat by the window. Pop. A few minutes later, amidst the flashes of lightning and strong winds outside, another beautiful figure appeared. It was still a 6-winged angel. She slowly flew to the window and said faintly, Xian, is this your choice? You said that you want to go back to your hometown to rest, but why did you come to such a filthy place like the land of exile? Do you know how great of a loss this is to the Western Heaven Realm? Why don't you go back to your hometown? Xian held the goblet, took a sip and smiled. Hometown? My old friends there have long died. What kind of hometown is it without any relatives? My only relative is called Xin, and she is in the Shattered Cauldron Realm. Eva was stunned. You want to go to the Shattered Cauldron Realm? Yes. But the power of the Divine Pact is still there. Once you go to the Shattered Cauldron Realm without being exiled, you will lose all your power. It's okay, I'm just going to find my family. I don't need power. Do you want to come in for a drink? Eva. Eva frowned and sat in front of Xian saying, You are even more willful than Xin. So I want to go to her. Eva, do you want to come with me and leave this hypocritical world? Me? Eva took the strong wine, took a sip and said, Forget it, I don't have that kind of luck. Not far away, a few burly men who were drinking didn't dare to make a sound. No one dared to breathe loudly. The people of the land of exile all knew the legend of the Heaven Realm. These 2 beautiful women both had 6 wings. They were the 2 strongest blazing angels in the God Realm. Who dared to provoke them unless they didn't want to live? However, it was really too boring for two blazing angels to come to this barren land to drink. Chapter 964. Tell me, what are you thinking? Eva held her goblet and looked indifferently at Shi Yan, her best friend who had known her for over 10,000 years. Actually, I don't have any thoughts. I'm just very confused. Shi Yan put down her goblet, raised her hands behind her head, and lay lazily on the dirty sofa. Also, I'm tired. I don't want to continue working meaninglessly. Tired? Yes. For tens of thousands of years, we've experienced many massacres. Every time I firmly believed that what we did was for judgment and justice. But now it seems that isn't the case. We're just trying to protect our position as the master of the God realm. Shi Yan laughed self-deprecatingly. I originally thought that I was a blazing angel who defended the Western divine realm. But now it seems that I'm just an executioner. For our own selfish desires, we've caused the mortal world to be at war for years. Many living beings have died because of us. This isn't something that the God realm should do. Gods should pity the common people and not treat mortals as ants. Are you blaming the ruler? Eva asked with a smile. No, I'm not. Shi Yan shook her head, but felt that such a denial was too weak. Mao Hua took another sip of wine and said, just as you said, the ruler's actions over the past year have indeed exceeded the standards of a ruler of the God realm, and he is more like a tyrant. But Shi Yan, you should also look at it from another perspective. The rise of the East Heaven Court has caused the other three great heaven realms to feel that they are in imminent danger. At this time, the ruler has already lost his composure. Is it too much to do so many things in order to protect his ruling position in the West Heaven realm? He's just doing what a ruler should do. Maybe you're right. Shi Yan's gaze was indifferent. After I signed a divine contract with Xiao, why can the seven luminaries Demon Emperor and Xiao abide by it, but not the Lord Ruler? Were the seven luminaries Demon Emperor and Xiao not worried about losing the Shattered Cauldron realm in Linmuyu? They are worried as well, but they don't want to trample on their own dignity and principles. Just like Lin Muyu and Xin, they have their own principles and bottom lines that they will never be willing to violate. As for the Lord Ruler, he has already lost all of his bottom lines. Eva was stunned. She muttered, You're very angry at the sovereign? Or rather, I'm disappointed. Shi Yan looked out of the window, her eyes as clear as water. That's why I've decided to leave the immortal world and become immortal, to pursue the life I want. Even if I can't achieve eternal life, at least I want to truly live once. Why don't we go through the Star Cavern? Eva looked straight at her. Because I don't want to continue supporting the Divine Pact. This is a meaningless Divine Pact. Shi Yan suddenly stood up and said, Time's up. Eva, I'm going to the Shattered Cauldron realm to look for Xin. What about you? Me? Eva pursed her red lips and said, The Western Divine Realm is in chaos now. Due to the overbearing attitude of the East Heaven, all the great families are in a state of panic. The flames of war have already been ignited at the borders. I have to lead the Divine Race Army to quell the chaos. Sigh, it's not too late for you to change your mind now. At least you still have your blazing angel cultivation. However, once you go to the Shattered Cauldron realm, you will trigger the Divine Pact and lose everything. Lose everything? Shi Yan smiled and shook her head. No, I still have Xin. I heard that Terralyn Lake and the others are still in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Following Xin is equivalent to betraying the Western Divine Realm. The Sovereign definitely won't let them off. So I have the responsibility to lead them to a path of survival. Can you still lead them to the light after losing your godly power? What? You don't believe in my ability? Shi Yan smiled and gently opened her palm. A small sword of light condensed at the tip of each of her fingers. She smiled and said, Eva, don't forget that we have sparred countless times over the years. You have never won against me even once. I admit that the 7 slashes are indeed powerful. However, can you still use the 7 slashes without your godly power? Eva frowned. How about this? After I return to the Western Divine Realm, I will immediately look for Li Fei and have her descend to the mortal world to find you. Li Fei's strength is not bad. At the very least, she can ensure your safety. There's no need. Don't let anyone find me. What? I don't want to be a blazing angel anymore, Shi Yan said very calmly. However, Eva was stunned. She could hardly believe that Shi Yan would say such a thing. Blazing angels were existences that were almost ultimate gods. What kind of person would be willing to give up such a noble identity? Alright Eva, I'm leaving. Shi Yan stood up and suddenly disappeared from the small tavern. The next moment, a ball of fire fell straight into the distance. It was a force that had entered the spatial crack. Eva gritted her teeth. She felt the ground beneath her feet start to tremble. Rays of golden light appeared in the air. The light condensed into ancient characters that spun rapidly in the air. Soon after, they all collapsed. The divine pact had been broken. The price was that Yen had lost all of her cultivation. Whoosh! A pillar of light poured down on the ground. The next moment, in the depths of the forest, the light gradually condensed into the image of a beautiful woman. She wore a long white dress and knelt in the wild grass as if she was not afraid of the cold. Roar! Her Lin had alarmed the surrounding beasts. A grizzly bear woke up from its sleep, roaring and waving its sharp claws to kill. Go back. Yen looked indifferently in the direction of the grizzly bear. She muttered silently, "Go back and rest immediately. Otherwise you will regret it." Roar! The grizzly bear stopped. A pair of black eyes stared at the delicious meal of Yen. It raised its head and roared. It actually walked back to its nest dejectedly. This was a 240-year-old spiritual grizzly bear. Yen, who had lost her cultivation, actually scared off the grizzly bear just by relying on the aura of a former blazing angel. Humph, what a child. The corners of Yen's mouth curled up with pride. She slowly drew out the sword Blazing Moon from her waist. The blade was slightly curved, like a crescent moon. However, there was a faint scorching power around the blade. This Blazing Moon sword was also considered one of the top artifacts in the Western Divine Realm. Apart from Claude's Dig's spear and dagger of time, the Blazing Moon sword was probably the strongest. However, Yen could not muster a trace of divine power in her body. Her power had been completely drained the moment she entered the Shattered Cauldron realm with the curse of the Divine Pact. At this time, her body was like a huge dried-up lake. Although it was deep and wide, there was not a single drop of power left. With a slight frown, Yen's hand that was holding the Blazing Moon sword trembled slightly. This long sword that had been with her for many years seemed to be on the verge of losing control. A tyrannical power surged out from the blade and slowly devoured Yen's palm. In an instant, Yen stood rooted to the ground. Her face was pale and her arms trembled violently. She gritted her teeth and said in an imposing manner, "Blazing Moon, are you crazy? Don't tell me you don't recognize me anymore? Behave yourself. Otherwise I will smelt you and turn you into a pickaxe for digging coal." Buzz buzz, this threat was very powerful. The devouring of the Blazing Moon sword gradually weakened, allowing Yen to relax. The artifact originally contained power. Although she did not have divine power in her body, she might be able to use the first few moves of the 7 slashes by using the power of the Blazing Moon. If that was the case, at least she would have the power to protect herself in this plane. Step by step, she walked to the edge of the forest. When she came to the main road, she saw a stone tablet buried at the edge of the official road from afar. On it were 3 huge words, Sangnan Province. In the east heaven, Yen's lonely figure appeared in the huge pond of illusion. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was dressed in military attire, ready to personally lead the army into battle. Holding the Pangu axe in his hand, he squinted his eyes and smiled. The divine pact has been lifted. Xiao, you can finally rest assured now. At the side, Xiao nodded and smiled. Looks like Yen was the first to choose to give up. Qingping said, "At this moment, the Western Divine Realm is in chaos. This is a great opportunity for us to send troops to destroy the Western Divine Realm. Demon Emperor, it's not wise to miss this opportunity. Besides, Claude has lost the help of the Blazing Angel Yen. It's like he has lost an arm. This is a great opportunity for us." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said calmly, "I know. When I'm ready, we'll start the battle immediately." At this moment, from the ranks of the God Emperors, a person holding a spear walked out and said, "Your Majesty Demon Emperor, this Yen is one of the 2 blazing angels and also one of our greatest threats. She took the initiative to violate the Divine Pact and give up her cultivation. Could she be doing something wrong? I suggest that we immediately send a God Emperor to the lower realm to kill Yen. We'll cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. We'll make the Western Divine Realm lose the strongest blazing angel." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor looked at the group of God Emperors from afar and said, "What do you think?" The gods were stunned. One of them stepped out and said, "Your Majesty Demon Emperor, I think it's feasible. For now we haven't figured out Yen's real goal. The most direct way to solve the problem is to kill Yen and make all their plans go up in smoke. Is there anyone else who thinks so?" The other God Emperors nodded one after another. "Yes, cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. Xiao frowned slightly and looked at the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, but she didn't say anything. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor slowly sat on the God King's seat and pointed at the crowd. He scolded while spitting saliva, "That's why I said you are rookies who have been cultivating for thousands of years and haven't improved. Do you know why? Your mental state is too weak. We are gods. We should be thinking about creating the world and taking pity on all living things. But all you think about is fighting and killing all day long. When will you ever reach the 99 God Emperor realm?" The gods trembled with fear. None of them dared to say anything. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had an arrogant look on his face. "Don't talk nonsense with me. Immediately prepare to attack the Western Divine Realm. Also Xiao, you don't have to go to war. Just watch over the Shattered Cauldron Realm and inform me immediately if there are any strange movements." "Yes, Demon Emperor." Xiao smiled happily. "Then, what about Xian? Protect her well. If she encounters any danger, go to the lower realm at any time." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor nodded and looked at the simple patterns on the floor. He said, "No matter what, she is Yu Yu's sister-in-law. If anything happens to Shi Yin, I won't be able to face it." Chapter 965. December 11th, Forest of No Return. Heavy snow. The roads in the Forest of No Return were rugged. Only one of the mountain roads was relatively flat and could still be used to transport supplies. This road was called the Coiled Snake Road and was extremely winding. At this time, the Coiled Snake Road was covered by heavy snow, but from afar, one could see that the Celestial Empire's grain transport team had a lot of people. There were at least 5,000 of them. A large group of people at the front swept the snow and cleared the road. At the back, there were cavalry on war horses helping to drag the grain carts that were stuck in the mud. At the same time, there were 2 dragon knights hovering in the air. Sending 2 dragon knights to protect the grain route was enough to show how cautious Chen Yu was in using his troops. However, this time he was destined to fail. On the mountain ridge behind the Coiled Snake Road, the densely packed cavalry and archers were already ready. Banners fluttered in the cold wind. Lu Bai, Si Kongyao, and the others stared at the 2 dragon knights in the air. "Is there no problem?" Lu Bai frowned and said, "Are these 2 dragon knights blind? We are so close, but they actually turned a blind eye to the 10,000-strong army?" Lin Muyu said, "Don't talk nonsense. Her Majesty the Female Slayer has set up a blinding enchantment in our entire area. Even the dragon knights can't see it." The female slayer wore a white cloak and glared at Lu Bai. Lu Bai's heart almost stopped. Qinin smiled and said, "Then when do we make our move?" "Don't rush. Wait until all the grain carts arrive at the Coiled Snake Road." Lin Muyu's eyes were cold and said, "There are at least 500,000 dawn of grain. This is at least 10 days' worth of rations for Qin Yu's 1 million troops. As long as we cut off their rations, Qin Yu will be begging for death." Si Kongyao chuckled and said, "How do we make our move? Let's get rid of these 2 dragon knights first." Lin Muyu squinted at the sky and said, "In a while, Xiao Yin and I will go up together. Each of us will kill one of them before they release the wolf falcons. Xiao Shi will lead Bai and Yao to attack from the ground. Remember, leave some alive and try to ensure that their armor is intact." "What?" Lu Bai asked. Lin Muyu looked at him as if he was an idiot and said, "Tell me, what are we doing now?" "Intercept their rations." "But there's nothing else." Lin Muyu facepalmed. "Bai, you idiot, you're thinking of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Don't forget that Qin Yu has at least 1 million dawn of grain in Lanha County, 10 miles east of East Com City. If we don't burn down the Lanha County granary, I'm afraid Qin Yu will be able to hold on for a while. We'll change into the Celestial Empire's grain carts here and sneak into Lanha County's granary. Only then can we burn down Qin Yu's last hope." "I understand." Lu Bai cupped his fists and said, "Lin General is truly smart. This is just the basic strategy for marching troops. Read more when you have time." "Yes." 30 minutes later, the operation began. The drums on the mountain sounded in unison. Swoosh, swoosh. 2 beams of light shot into the sky. Lin Muyu's Xinyuan sword had already been unsheathed, and the blade slashed straight at the dragon knight on the left. Chaotic light. What? The dragon knight hurriedly pulled out his sword to block, but how could he block it? Lin Muyu's sword borrowed the power of the mountains and broke the dragon knight's sword with great force. The Xinyuan sword cut into the dragon knight's armor with unstoppable force, and blood splattered everywhere. In just an instant, the dragon knight, who had the cultivation of the 15th level of Grotto Heaven, was killed. In another direction, Qin Yin's stellar sword had also killed another dragon knight. The first strike of Shi Yan's 7 slashes, split, was extremely lethal. On the ground, the sounds of killing rang out. Tang Xiaoxi turned into a fiery light and shuttled through the crowd of the grain carts. She held the Dig's spear in her hand, and the tip of the spear turned into fiery light as it flew out continuously. This allowed the Bai Zhe mercenaries to seize absolute dominance on the battlefield with almost no losses. In less than 10 minutes, more than half of the 5,000 grain carts of the Celestial Empire were killed. The remaining 1,000 or so surrendered. Their fighting spirit didn't seem to be very strong. Under Lin Muyu's orders, the Bai Zhe mercenaries imprisoned these 1,000 cavalrymen, and Liu Bai selected 1,000 elites. They put on the clothes of the grain carts and escorted the grain carts to Lanhe County. Watching the grain carts leave, Liu Bai sighed. I taught these 1,000 people personally. Lin General, do you think they can come back alive? Most of them can't. Lin Muyu said. Liu Bai's heart turned cold. But Lin General, you told them that as long as they burn the granary, they can enter the stables, steal the war horses and escape. If I didn't say that, they definitely wouldn't be willing to go. Lin Muyu exhaled a breath of hot air and rubbed her cold palms. I can only give them hope and let them complete this impossible task. What kind of person is Qin Yu? He's good at scheming. His granary will definitely be heavily guarded. Even if they go in, it will be very difficult to get out. But Liu Bai was stunned. Xikong Yao, who was at the side, patted his shoulder and said, Commoner, you should also understand the principle of not being merciful in commanding an army. You can't bear to let the officers and soldiers throw away their lives. This is the reason why you are qualified to be a general, but Big Brother Ayu can do this. This is the reason why he is qualified to be a marshal. If even he is as indecisive as you, then this battle has already been lost. Lin Muyu was silent. She quietly turned around and sat on a rock. She didn't even sweep away the snow on the rock. Are you all right? Qin Yin quietly accompanied her. I'm fine. Lin Muyu raised her head to look at her and smiled. I can overcome this mentality. Over the years, tens of thousands of people have died for me, but I know that what I'm doing is right. Only by doing this can fewer people die. Only by doing this can the world be unified. The female murderer nodded her head in approval. Liu Bai seemed to think for a long time. Then what do we do now? Continue to seal off the Celestial Empire's grain routes, mine stones, and build fortresses along their retreat routes. Lin Muyu stood up and said, Since we've already formed an alliance with the demonic spirit race, we can't lead the Celestial Empire's army into the forest of no return. I want Qin Yu's defeated army to return through the Blackstone Empire and have them fight the Blackstone Empire again. Liu Bai stood there in a daze. At this moment he finally understood what war was. War was death and slaughter. It was all about schemes and strategies regardless of the cost. Yes, this subordinate understands. When he looked at Lin Muyu again, there was more respect in his eyes. Perhaps it was as Xikong Yao had said, he had too many things to learn from Lin Muyu. On the 15th day, the Lanhe County's granary caught fire. Qin Yu immediately led 30,000 soldiers to extinguish the fire. After a day and a night, the fire was extinguished. However, the granary had turned into ruins in the middle of the night. Dust from the burning of the grains fell from the sky, covering every corner of the Lanhe County. It made people feel despair. Rustle, 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 Qin Yu's battle boots stepped on the muddy ground. He was dressed in a golden military uniform. His expression was extremely ugly as he lightly said, Where are the supplies? A general cupped his fists. This official is here. How much rations do we have left? How many days will it last? The rations in the various camps are enough for 3 days. The remaining rations in the Lanhe County can support the entire army for another 2 days. In other words, even if we reduce the rations every day, we can only last for 10 days. Only 10 days? Qin Yu's gaze was cold. What the hell are you all doing? When will the rations transport team arrive? Send my imperial edict back to Scorching Han City. Order the Minister of the Interior to immediately supervise the rations. Your Majesty. The logistics officer frowned and said, Our rations route has been cut off by a group of mercenaries. Even if we send people to supervise the rations won't reach East Com province. What a bastard. Qin Yu roared angrily. What is the demon spirit race trying to do? At the side, Liao Yang cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, the demon spirit race's army withdrew 5 days ago. Most of them returned to the forest of no return. It seems that, The demon empress has given up on cooperating with us. Fickle. Qin Yu's palm landed on the wall, leaving a clear palm print. He frowned and said, "Is there no other way?" "Yes, we can send a small army to the surrounding cities to collect and purchase rations, but the amount won't be too much. The only way is to break into East Com City. There are more than 50 granaries in East Com City. Once they are breached, we will have an endless supply of rations. Furthermore, the defending general Gong Xiangming is just a weak scholar." "Gong Xiangming? He's just a defeated opponent of Lin Muyu?" Qin Yu took a deep breath and said, "Order the army to attack the city quickly. We must take down East Com City within 10 days and cut off Gong Xiangming's head. Also send a small army to collect rations. Even if it's looting, they must get rations for me. Don't reduce the army's rations. I can't let the soldiers go hungry while fighting." "Yes, Your Majesty." A day later, the 500,000-strong army of the Celestial Empire attacked the city. The entire East Com City was engulfed in the flames of war. Although East Com City was an isolated city, it was rich in resources and sturdy. The ones who were even more anxious were the Celestial Empire's army, which had lost their rations. After 3 days of attacking, both sides suffered heavy losses. The city was covered in corpses. The Celestial Empire's advantage was the number of dragon knights. More than 300 dragon knights circled above the city, slaughtering soldiers and burning the granaries. They were unscrupulous. In the blink of an eye, the ancient city of East Com was reduced to ruins. Smoke rose into the sky from within the city, and the people were in dire straits. "Urgent report." A messenger rushed into the tent, panting. "Marshal, we just received news that Bai Zai's mercenaries have set off. They have entered the forest of no return and have cut off the Celestial Empire's rations." "Oh." Gong Xiangming pressed his hand on the map on the table and said, "No wonder Qin Yu attacked the city like a madman. So their rations have been exhausted. Ah, that's great. Have you found out who's commanding the Bai Zai's mercenaries?" "Lu Bai and Si Kongyao." "That's impossible, right?" Gong Xiangming frowned. "Lu Bai is just a peasant, while Si Kongyao is the beloved daughter of the Celestial Bliss sect Si Kongming. How could they hit the nail on the head?" "Investigate further. The Bai Zai's mercenaries must have an expert commanding them. Otherwise they wouldn't have used such bold and brilliant tactics." "Yes." Gong Xiangming racked his brains as he sat there, muttering to himself, "Who is it? Who is so powerful?" Chapter 966. On the 22nd, it snowed for 4 days and 4 nights. The Celestial Empire had besieged East Peace City for 7 days straight. The city gates were covered in scars caused by the swords and catapults. The city walls looked as if they had been bathed in blood. In the cold winter, the blood of the soldiers quickly froze on the walls, making it look as if a layer of blood-colored ice crystals had been plated on the walls. Corpses were everywhere. Gong Xiangming had ordered the archers to be on guard, forbidding the Celestial Empire from collecting the corpses. As a result, layers upon layers of corpses of the Celestial Empire soldiers were piled up below the city walls. When the Celestial Empire attacked the city, they had to step over the corpses of their comrades to build ladders. It was as if the corpses had become part of the siege equipment. Late at night, the Celestial Empire's main camp ran out of food. It was cold inside the central tent. Qin Yu stood in front of the map, his body trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly he turned around to look at the generals and said, "We've already attacked the eastern gate this afternoon. Why did you retreat? Protector Chang, you're the general leading the army. What crime do you deserve?" A captaincy hurriedly knelt down and said with an ashen face, "Your Majesty, we've suffered too many casualties. 2,000 of our brothers from the vanguard have died below the city walls. The cavalry and heavy shields of the Central Army can't stop the stones on the city walls at all. Furthermore, 7 of our dragon riders have died at the eastern gate. It's not that I don't want to attack the city, it's just that I can't. Even if I gave the order, it would only be for the remaining 5,000 of our brothers to die below the city walls. You're afraid of death and you think you're in the right." Qin Yu pointed at Protector Chang and shouted, "If even a general is as afraid of death as you are, who would dare to attack the city without any regard for their own safety? How many soldiers and horses have died before we could reach the city walls? Because of your cowardice, we failed at the last moment, and yet you still dare to quibble. Men, drag Protector Chang away and behead him." "Your Majesty, this general is innocent." Protector Chang knelt on the ground, but he was pulled away by a few guards. In the blink of an eye, a bloody head was presented to Qin Yu, but no one dared to say a word. After attacking the city for 7 days without any results, they had lost at least 150,000 soldiers. Qin Yu needed to vent his anger, and Protector Chang was just unlucky. How's the situation in the city? Qin Yu looked at everyone coldly. None of the commander-level generals dared to make a sound. Only Liao Yang slowly walked forward, cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, according to what I know, our army used the Dragon Knights to descend from the sky and burn the granaries on the first day of the siege, burning most of the stored food in East Com City. The food has decreased, and the 200,000 soldiers in the city can only continue to forcibly collect food from the commoners. As a result, the commoners in East Com City have been complaining incessantly. At this point we can already see people exchanging children for food. Many commoners have not eaten for 3 to 5 days, and almost all the tree bark and roots in the city have been eaten up." Qin Yu said indifferently, "It seems that Gong Xiangming won't be able to hold out for much longer. The commoners in the city are exchanging children for food, which means that Gong Xiangming's military rations have been exhausted. As long as we surround the city we can take down East Com City in one go. Men, take my order and deploy the Terminus Earth Corps. Let them participate in the attack." "Yes." Liao Yang frowned and said, "Your Majesty, our army's food supply has also been cut off." "When did this happen?" "This morning. It's already night now and there are still many soldiers who haven't even eaten lunch. Many moldy and rotten grains have been taken out to be boiled, but it's still a drop in the bucket. It's not enough." "Do the soldiers know about the food shortage?" "Not yet." Qin Yu took a deep breath. "But we can't let them know. Pass down the order, say that the grain transport team has been delayed on the way, and will definitely arrive within a day. In addition, kill the 10,000 warhorses of the Terminus Heaven Corps' Vanguard Battalion to save the situation." The Terminus Heaven Corps was Dongqing Wang's heart, and the Vanguard Battalion was the elite cavalry of the Terminus Heaven Corps. Suddenly, Dongqing Wang frowned and said, "Your Majesty, once the horses are killed for food, I'm afraid the combat power of the Terminus Heaven Corps will be greatly reduced. Moreover, 10,000 warhorses can feed 800,000 soldiers. After a day they will still run out of food." Qin Yu frowned. "Dongqing Wang, don't worry too much. I've calculated. In addition to the Vanguard Battalion of the Terminus Heaven Corps, we have a total of 150,000 cavalry. These 150,000 warhorses are enough for us to hold out for 15 days. As long as we hold out, the people in the city may have all starved to death, and East Com City will be won without a fight." Dongqing Wang trembled all over. "Your Majesty, are you going to give up the cavalry of the Celestial Empire? Once we lose the 150,000 cavalry, how can we fight a positional battle with the Tianji Empire? If people starve to death even if we have the cavalry, what can we do?" Qin Yu looked at him coldly and said, "I've made up my mind. There's no need to say more. Every day we will kill the horses for food. We must block all the food routes around East Com City. If we can't eat food, Gong Xiangming can't eat either. I'd like to see how long this weak scholar can hold out." As he spoke, Qin Yu bowed to Han Yuan and said, "Lord, come with me to the Forest of No Return tonight. I want to see the Demon Emperor Nuslik and see what she's doing. Isn't she afraid of the revenge of my million-strong army?" Han Yuan nodded. "Okay." Liao Yang frowned and said, "Since Nuslik has decided to cooperate with Baizei's mercenaries, she must have made up her mind. There is no need for your Majesty and Lord to take the risk. After all, the Forest of No Return is the territory of the Demon Spirit clan. If Nuslik gathers an army, I'm afraid your Majesty's life will be in danger." Qin Yu smiled brightly. "The soldiers of the 3 armies are fighting to the death for me, and it is worth it for me to gamble for the lives of the soldiers of the 3 armies. I believe that you, Nushir, will not think of taking my life." Han Yuan cupped his fists. "Don't worry, your Majesty. I will gather all the experts from Qinjua's sect. Even if Nuslik wants to harm us, we will at most fight to the death." "Good, very good." Late at night, a group of people entered the Forest of No Return. Heavy snow swirled in the air. Nushi, who was on the hill, could see through this group of people. Lin Muyu, Si Kongyao, Qinin, and the rest were standing on top of the newly built fortress. This fortress was built by freezing mud, stones, and water. It was guarded by 100,000 Bai's mercenaries and was named Bai's Fortress. After many days of transportation, the Bai's Fortress could be considered as a forest of arrows and a group of chariots. In the distance, Qin Yu raised his head and looked at the fortress that suddenly appeared on the grain route. He couldn't help but frown. What's going on? When did a fortress appear on the coiled snake road? Liao Yang squinted and looked carefully. The flag fluttering on the fortress is the flag of Baize's mercenaries. So the Baize's mercenaries have been hiding here all along. Qinyu was silent. Liao Yang said, Your Majesty, what's wrong? If we retreat. In the cold weather, Qinyu's forehead was covered with cold sweat. If we retreat, where should we go? The Baize's mercenaries are like a fatal knife that appeared on our retreat path. This Si Kongyao doesn't want to leave a path of retreat for our celestial empire. Liao Yang nodded. This fortress is blessed by nature. Can be said that one man can hold the pass against 10,000. If it is really as your Majesty said, I'm afraid it will be bad. Qinyu gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Damn it. Once East P City is conquered, I will immediately eliminate the Baize's mercenaries. These boorish men who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Han Yuan, dressed in a black robe, flew quietly in the sky. Suddenly he said, Your Majesty, the Demon Empress Nushi is here to welcome us. Sure enough, within the swirling snow, a dense crowd of figures appeared on the hill. The Demon Empress Nushi was still hugging her pipa and stood elegantly in the snow. Her pair of intelligent eyes looked at Qinyu's group. Around her were many demon spirits with the strength of demon kings and demon venerables. Low roars could be heard on the hill. At least 10,000 high-level demon spirits were gathered here. Qinyu stepped on the snow and suddenly flew up. He cupped his fists in the air and said, Qinyu greets the Demon Empress. This little girl greets your Majesty Qinyu. Nushi smiled. May I know why your Majesty brought over 100 people here? Qinyu smiled faintly and said, I just want to ask why your Majesty allowed the Baize mercenaries to act so wantonly on the Serpentine path. Could it be that your Majesty has forgotten the agreement between us? I haven't forgotten. The female murderess's gaze was faint as she said, However, the Baize mercenaries' bargaining chip is more attractive. Furthermore, Miss Sikong Yao also promised that she would not burn the forest of no return. This little girl is the Demon Spirit Clan's emperor, so I can only make a choice. I chose the Baize mercenaries. Qinyu gritted his teeth. Has your Majesty decided to become enemies with the Celestial Empire? Whatever you think. Nushi giggled. However, it seems that your Majesty has brought so many people here. I believe this battle is inevitable. Since we are going to fight, what's the point of talking so much? Descendants of the demon spirits, prepare to kill the enemy. Suddenly the mountain was filled with the howls of wolves and tigers. The demon spirits revealed their sharp claws and fangs. Not only that, but there was also a dense crowd of Baize mercenaries in white robes appearing on the hill. They all pulled their bows taut and pointed straight down the hill. The arrowheads glowed with a faint cold light. All of them were demonic heart arrows. Apart from the archers, there were also ballistas and god-hunting crossbows that were pointed at Qinyu and the others. At the foot of the mountain, Han Yuan waved his sleeves and rays of golden light shone from his body. He looked like a god as he flew up. Zhu Ran smiled. Nushi, do you really want to start a war with the Sky Limit sect? Nushi faintly smiled. Sect Master Han Yuan, you're a grandmaster. If we're being reasonable, you're currently provoking us in our Demon Spirit Clan's territory. We didn't take the initiative to start a war. Forget it, Han Yuan laughed. From now on, there will be no more demon spirits between the mountains. Kill them. Chapter 967. The sound of the guqin intertwined with the lightning. Han Yuan's every palm was filled with intense lightning. When his palm landed, not only did it clash with New Shire's power, but it also burned the surrounding demon spirits with lower cultivation into ashes. Han Yuan's cultivation was very shocking. He was proficient in the 3 laws of thunder, fire, and earth. The spirit pearl of law formed by the caste deity emerged from his body. He had the upper hand and his attacks were very fierce. Qinyu, Liao Yang, and the rest all pulled out their sharp blades and rushed to the top of the mountain. On the other hand, the group of demons on the mountain let out a shrill cry. This was a battle to protect their homeland. They were ferocious. Bang! 2 rays of golden light collided. It was the divine will formed by New Shire and Han Yuan respectively. Half of the mountain was almost flattened. In the blink of an eye, at least 100 demon spirits had died under Han Yuan's divine power. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The demonic heart arrows fell like rain and continuously hit the protective upstanding chi of the experts of the Tinjua sect. The god-hunting crossbow was a kind of crossbow that was tempered by the demonic heart stone. It was powerful and required 3 to 5 people to use it at the same time. The powerful force was enough to penetrate the protective upstanding chi of the experts below the immortal state. As a result, blood splattered everywhere. In a battle between an army and a god, it was not always the god who won. This was the first time that the Baizé mercenaries were fighting against a god. However, it seemed that the soldiers were not very afraid. Even though their companions had died tragically, they did not lose the courage to fight. Liu Bai was not good at other things, but he was good at leading troops. At least, he had injected a fearless soul into the Baizé mercenaries. That was enough. On the Baizé fortress, which was about 500 meters away, Lin Muyu, Qinin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the rest watched from afar. Are we really not going to help? Si Kongyao blinked her eyes. Don't worry, Nu Shi can handle it. Lin Muyu smiled with a deep gaze. Although the Korean one is strong, Nushifu also has the help of Baizé's mercenaries. She won't lose. Furthermore, there are many demon spirits. If nothing goes wrong, Qinyu will soon order a retreat. His main opponent is Gong Shangming in East Com City, not us. He won't let all his trump cards die in the forest of no return. Qini nodded. Yao, if we make a move, whether it's Brother Yu's Xinyuan sword, Shaoxi's nine-tailed transformation, or my eyes of flaming light, they will all expose our identities. But we've already planned it before we came here. The three of us will never expose our identities. We'll just help you finish the show in secret. Si Kongyao smiled. Actually, the ones performing the show are not the Baizé's mercenaries. The ones performing the show are Qinyu and Gong Shangming. The two of them are the ones who control the entire continent's military strength. Yes, but I don't know if Gong Shangming will disappoint us. The corners of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up. The longer Gong Shangming can last, the more advantageous it will be for us. Qinyu's army has already eaten up all the grass outside East Com City. They'll start killing the horses now. Let's see what they can eat in half a month. Half an hour later, just as Lin Muyu had expected, Qinyu issued the order to retreat. More than half of the 100 experts from the Heavenly Extremity sect had died. Even Han Yuan's face was slightly pale. If they continued fighting, they would be able to destroy all the elites of the demon spirit race and even kill Nu Shi. However, the price was something the Celestial Empire couldn't bear. Han Yuan could kill Nu Shi, but Nu Shi's counterattack could also pose a fatal threat to Han Yuan. In the heavy snow, Qinyu's men came and left quickly. The hill was covered in corpses. This hasty battle had killed at least 1,000 demon spirits. Nu Shi's expression was extremely ugly. Rustle, rustle, Lin Muyu's figure appeared on the hill. She looked at the corpses on the ground and said, Nu Shi, I'm sorry for making you suffer such a huge loss. Nu Shi smiled in a daze. This is better than being annihilated, right? Yes. Your Highness I have something to ask you. Go ahead. In the Battle of Tsangnan Province, I heard that although you defeated the army of the Tianji Empire, the Qin army also lost over 200,000 people. Those are 200,000 lives. Doesn't your Highness feel any guilt? She looked deeply at Lin Muyu with her beautiful eyes, as if she wanted to see the answer in the depths of his heart. Lin Muyu looked at the team that was cleaning up the corpses at the foot of the hill. He was wearing a black robe and had his back facing Nu Shi. He laughed self-mockingly and said, Guilt is long gone. If guilt can help me win the war and help me recover the lost land, I will be filled with guilt. It's a pity that guilt can't help me at all. Therefore, I won't think about it or look at it. Nu Shi moved her red lips and said, Thank you for your hard work, Your Highness. It's not hard at all. Lin Muyu turned to look at her and revealed a bright smile. He said, After so many years in my eyes, the war no longer looks like a war. It's just a map. The number of troops on the map, the strength of the troops, the supply of provisions and so on. The rest won't enter my thoughts. Every general and every soldier is just a chess piece on the map. What I need to do is to make good use of these chess pieces and achieve the greatest victory with the smallest loss. Chess piece, map? Nu Shi murmured. Lin Muyu smiled and said, In this world there are small kindness and great kindness. Taking pity on one person and giving up everything for one person is a small kindness. Taking pity on the people of the world and looking at the overall situation is the most important. Even if it means sacrificing some innocent people, this is a great kindness. This is the way of the world. How can there be such a thing as benevolence and virtue at the same time? The so-called famous generals all have blood on their hands. Nu Shi chuckled and said, Looks like I chose to follow Your Highness you. This choice is not wrong. Lin Muyu stepped on the snow under her feet and looked at the team that was cleaning up the corpses in the distance. She said, I hope the war will end soon. I believe that the demons and humans will live in peace one day. How can we live in peace? Nu Shi was a little hopeful. Rules and principles. Lin Muyu said indifferently, only the victors can write such rules. Therefore we have no way out. If we want to make a new rule, we must defeat all those who don't obey. So, Nushi, you are the same as me. In order to win dignity and survival, we can only continuously defeat strong enemies. There is no other way. And I will. Lin Muyu pursed her lips and suddenly smiled. Your Highness, what are you smiling at? Nushi asked. I'm laughing at myself. I used to be an unconventional person. I always felt that those old rules were like a joke. But now I'm like an old teacher preaching to others. Moreover, I'm preaching to an elder like you, Nushi. Don't you think it's funny? Me? Nushi's bright eyes rippled with laughter. What elder? Am I not as beautiful as a flower? Your Highness, your words are simply too hurtful. All right, I won't say it anymore. Behind her, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had also arrived. Naturally, she couldn't say anything more. The wind and snow covered everyone's voices and smiles. The entire forest of no return had become the territory of Baizei's mercenaries. It had also become a forbidden area for the Celestial Empire. The next day after Qinyu returned to the camp, the Celestial Empire's attack became even more frenzied. By nightfall, the Celestial Empire had left more than 10,000 corpses at the foot of the city and retreated to the camp. But it was also late at night that the gates of the distant East Com city slowly opened. Rows of carriages emerged from the city and dragged the mountains of corpses into the city. Everything was carried out quietly, but it didn't escape the eyes of the Celestial Empire's dragon riders. What? Qinyu looked at the dragon riders in shock and anger. The young dragon rider's face was pale as he said, Your Majesty. They lured the corpses of our soldiers into the city. Before the sky even brightened, they set up countless cauldrons and cooked the corpses of our soldiers. Qinyu finally understood why Gong Xiangming didn't clean up the corpses at the foot of the city. It turned out that Gong Xiangming had long anticipated this day. In an instant, Qinyu felt a chill in his heart. Gong Xiangming was just a scholar, but after going on an expedition to the Shattered Cauldron realm, he had actually become so shrewd. It was truly frightening. He walked out of the camp and looked at the towering East Com city in the distance. This city didn't seem like an isolated city. Instead, it seemed more like a tool of war. Qinyu's eyes were blood-red as he indifferently said, Gather the generals at daybreak and discuss the strategy to breach the city. We can't delay any longer. Understood. However, the so-called strategy to breach the city was just to increase the strength of the siege. This also meant that more people would die. On the 25th, the Celestial Empire broke through the eastern gate with the help of the One. However, the more than 10,000 troops that entered the city were ambushed and killed by the Tianji Empire's iron hooves. In the end, all their efforts were in vain. On the 29th, all of the Celestial Empire's warhorses were eaten. The new year arrived. On the 5th day of the first month, the Celestial Empire ran out of food and ammunition. Qinyu finally couldn't withstand the pressure from his ministers and ordered his troops to retreat. However, the road back had already been cut off by Baizei's mercenaries. They could only head south through Firegen province and borrow the Blackstone Empire's route to return to the mainland. However, on the same day that the Celestial Empire's army retreated, Gong Xiangming and 200,000 reinforcements from the Tianji Empire left the city. They worked together to attack the Celestial Empire's declining army. The two sides fought for 2 days and 2 nights, suffering heavy losses. On the 9th day of the first month, 7743, Qinyu's army entered Firegen province. They were ambushed by Baizei's mercenaries and lost more than 50,000 men. On the 14th day of the first month, 7743, Qinyu's army left Firegen province. Less than 200,000 men remained from his army of 1 million. On the 17th day of the first month, 7743, Qinyu's army was ambushed by Shi Yuan's 300,000 men in the Blackstone Empire's Red Cliff province. They lost nearly half of their army. On the 27th day of the first month, 7743, Qinyu finally returned to the mainland. Less than 90,000 men remained from his army of 1 million. Jinyun Pass. Qinyu's defeated army was chased all the way. On the 3rd day after they forced their way out of Jinyun Pass, Qinyu had long since become a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. When the concentrated sounds of horse hooves came from the ancient road, Qinyu almost fell off his warhorse. Far away in the forest, there was a banner fluttering in the wind. It was the Celestial Empire's wolf-head war flag. Liao Yang couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, Your Highness, it's our own army. It's the Sun Yin army stationed outside Jinyun Pass. It's the commander of the Sun Yen army, Lord Su Zhan. Sure enough, the armored cavalry stopped in the distance. A general came forward and knelt on both knees. Your Highness, you've suffered. Your subordinate Su Zhan led the 200,000 men from the Sun Yen army to rescue you. Qin Yu stood in the snow in a daze. His face was devoid of color. Suddenly he burst into tears. Chapter 968. On the 29th of January, although it was already the beginning of spring, the night was still very cold. The walls of Huiyuan City were all red, like a huge red mountain standing in the darkness. It was said that the bricks of Huiyuan City were made from special volcanic rocks, which was why they were so red. The bricks were hard and smooth, which was not good for climbing. Therefore, Huiyuan City, which had less than 10,000 guards, was able to withstand the attack of hundreds of thousands of Qin Yu's troops. Qin Yu had to give up Huiyuan City and go to the Blackstone Empire in the south. If Huiyuan City had not been defended, perhaps Qin Yu would not have suffered a crushing defeat in Hongyan province. The old general on the city wall was holding a flagon of wine, his eyes staring into the distance. Suddenly he raised his arm and said, "Ballisti, archers, be on guard, someone is coming." A 10-man squad leader couldn't help but laugh. "Lord, you are nervous again. Qin Yu's troops have been defeated long ago. It is impossible for them to come back. Who will come now? Watch carefully." Sure enough, the dense and slow sound of horse hooves could be heard on the official road. Soon a flag could be seen. It was a flag embroidered with the mythological beast Baizhe. Under the illumination of the fire on the city wall, at least 10,000 Baizhe mercenaries appeared below the city wall. "Who is it?" The general shouted. "Huiyuan City has implemented a curfew. No one is allowed to enter the city at night. This is the order of Marshal Gong Xiangming. No one can disobey it. Please go back." Under the city wall, a girl who was originally riding on a war horse suddenly flew up to the same position as the top of the city wall. She smiled and said, "What? Baizhe mercenaries have just helped you drive away the army of the Celestial Empire. Now Huiyuan City has started to refuse Baizhe mercenaries to rest in the city? Lord, what is your name?" The old general said, "I am Hua Chang, the vanguard general of Huiyuan City." "Who are you?" The girl smiled and said, "I'm Si Kongyao, old General Hua Chang. I've seen you in Tianji City before. Have you forgotten me? You see, my Baizhe mercenaries have run out of food due to the heavy snow. We can no longer set up an ambush in the forest of no return, so we are now hungry and tired. We are returning to Shiping City via Huiyuan City. I hope that General will allow us to enter the city to rest for a while and provide us with some food and fodder. We will leave after a day's rest. I guarantee that we will not cause any trouble to Huiyuan City." "So it's Miss Si Kongyao. Please excuse my lack of manners." Hua Chang cupped his hands and said, "Miss Si Kongyao's Baizhe mercenaries have attacked the main force of the Celestial Empire at the edge of the province. They have killed 50,000 soldiers. The Celestial Empire is terrified of them. I've heard about this. But I didn't expect that Miss Si Kongyao's army would actually pass through Huiyuan City. You've taken a long detour." Next to him, a Chiliarch lowered his voice and said, "General Hua, the Marshal's secret order clearly states that we should guard Huiyuan City and wait for the Empire's army to arrive. He also said that we need to guard against the Baizhe mercenaries. They are even more terrifying than the Celestial Empire's army. General, you must not let them enter the city. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, both of us will go to see the Marshal." Hua Chang furrowed his brows and said in a clear voice, "Commander Gong has ordered us to defend the city to the death. Before receiving the military order, this old general does not dare to open the city gates. How about this, eldest Miss Si Kongyao? Why don't you lead the army and set up camp outside the city? This old general will immediately order the supplies department to provide you with all the necessary rations and military equipment." Si Kongyao couldn't help laughing. "It seems that General Gong has begun to guard against me, Si Kongyao?" "No, it's just that General Gong is being cautious." Si Kongyao's pretty face turned cold. "What do you mean by being cautious? It's obvious that you don't trust the Baizhe mercenaries. Gong Xiangming, don't forget that if it weren't for the Baizhe mercenaries cutting off the Serpentine Road's food supply route and cutting off the Celestial Empire's retreat, would he have been able to defeat the million-strong army? I'm afraid that Gong Xiangming is still eating human flesh in East Com City." Hua Chang's expression was very ugly, but he remained silent. Si Kongyao held the sword in her hand and said in a low voice, "You have to open the city gate whether you want to or not. Do as you see fit. I know the situation inside the city better than anyone. 7,000 old, weak and crippled soldiers with incomplete armor. I'm afraid there are less than 10,000 arrows left. Do you think you can stop the 50,000 cavalrymen of the Baizé mercenaries with just you? 50,000 cavalrymen. Hua Chang trembled when he heard this. It was pitch black outside and the cavalrymen behind Si Kongyao were endless. No one knew how many there were. Lu Bai's voice came from below the city. Yao, why are you wasting time with him? If he hesitates any longer, I'll order for the city to be breached. Si Kongyao looked at Hua Chang coldly and said, Old General, I only want to enter the city to rest so that my soldiers can have a warm night and eat their fill. If you keep making things difficult for me, then I can only use force. But don't forget, going against me means going against the Tianji sect. Moreover, I'm the Princess of Shiping, 5 levels higher than you. Are you really going to stop me? Hua Chang finally relented. Will the Princess of Shiping really not offend my army after entering the city? Of course. All right, Hua Chang took a deep breath and said, Someone open the city gate and lead the Baizé mercenaries into the camp inside the city to rest. Yes, General. The gate slowly opened. Lu Bai immediately led a group of Baizé mercenaries into the city. However, the moment they entered the city, they immediately took control of the city gate and pointed their cold swords at the old and weak soldiers in the city. Si Kongyao jumped and landed beside Hua Chang. She placed the sharp sword on his neck and smiled. Old General, I'm sorry. I'll take over the Huiyuan city. Hua Chang's face was ashen. Didn't you say that you would not offend my army? There's nothing too deceitful in war. Si Kongyao revealed a sly smile and said, But you don't have to worry. We only want the Huiyuan city. We don't want your lives. This time we will not offend you. Hua Chang gasped. What do you want, Princess? Isn't it enough that you already have Shiping province? Do you want another Huiyuan city? Although your Baizé mercenaries are powerful, they may not be able to defend the city. You don't have to worry about that. Si Kongyao smiled. Hand over the governor's seal immediately. I'll be in charge of the Huiyuan city from now on. Oh no, the whole Huiyuan province will be under my control. Hua Chang's face was ashen. He said in a trembling voice, What do you want, Princess? There are only 4 provinces in the Tianji Empire. What do you want to do by occupying 2 provinces? You don't have to worry about it. Hand over the seal. It's in the governor's hands. Take me there. Yes. 2 hours later, Hua Chang successfully obtained the governor's seal and took over the entire Huiyuan city. Finally, Hua Chang left the Huiyuan city with more than 3,000 remaining soldiers before dawn. The remaining 4,000 soldiers had pledged their allegiance to Si Kongyao. For most of the local armies, it didn't matter who they were loyal to. What was important was who could give them food. As long as they had food, they wouldn't starve to death. At daybreak, a large number of high-level demon spirits entered Huiyuan city and went straight to the governor's mansion. The group of people were wearing thick cloaks and their faces were hidden by the cloaks. When they entered the mansion, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also appeared. A graceful woman took off her cloak and revealed a beautiful face. It was Nu Shi. She seemed to be a little nervous. Is it really okay to take over Huiyuan city like this? There will be no problem. Si Kongyao said, Your Majesty, you need to order the high-level demon spirits to disguise themselves as humans and blend into the army. You need to establish an army that you can control to control Huiyuan province. Then, you need to designate the forest area in the city as a forbidden area for the demon spirits to live in. When the time is ripe, you can announce the peaceful coexistence between humans and demon spirits. Of course, the most important thing is to restrain the demon spirits. From now on, they will only eat grains and not humans. Otherwise, whatever you say will be false. It's impossible for humans to coexist with demon spirits. Nu Shi said, Don't worry. I will issue a decree. If any demon spirit disobeys, they will be killed without mercy. It's no different from a human's decree. That's good. Si Kongyao smiled. The distance between Huiyuan city and Shiping city is less than 500 miles. It will take the cavalry a day and a night to get there. Our Baizé mercenaries can reinforce you at any time. Your demon spirit clan will also be able to reinforce Shiping city very quickly. Yes, we will watch over each other like this. As she spoke, Nu Shi turned around and bowed deeply to Lin Muyu. This little girl thanks your highness you for your kindness. If it wasn't for your idea, I'm afraid that the demon spirit clan would not have a place in this world. Your Majesty is too polite. Lin Muyu said, However, this is only the first step. We still have other plans. What plans? Si Kongyao and Qin Yin asked at the same time. Lin Muyu smiled. Right now the Tianji Empire is struggling at death's door. It's true that Gong Xiangming has defeated Qinyu, but the number of troops he has is pitifully small. Coupled with the fact that he has lost the taxes of 2 provinces, the Tianji Empire's national strength has declined to only 20% of what it used to be. It's impossible for them to contend against the Celestial Empire and the Blackstone Empire. Therefore, our next opponent will no longer be the Tianji Empire. Instead, we should focus our strategy on forming an alliance with the Tianji Empire and expelling the Blackstone Empire. After training our troops, we will march south and seize Qianshan City and Red Rock City. This will force the Blackstone Empire's army to advance eastwards and let them snatch the territories of the Celestial Empire and fight to the death with the remaining troops of Qinyu. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Mu, you're really getting worse. You can even come up with this kind of idea. This is just a balance. We must make the celestial pole continent reach a balance as a whole. Nusher smiled. Then what happens after this balance is reached? We need another force to break this balance and re-establish the order of the celestial pole continent, Lin Muyu said confidently. What is this force you're talking about? Naturally, it's the army of our Qin Empire. Lin Muyu's words were full of pride. Chapter 969. On the 4th of February, it had been almost a month since Gong Xiangming's army had completely defeated the Celestial Empire's army. However, there weren't many smiles in the Tianji Palace of Tianji City. In the past month, they had only heard one bad news after another. Marshal Gong has arrived, the eunuch announced loudly. A group of civil and military officials looked over and saw Gong Xiangming in his military uniform with a long sword hanging from his waist. His gilded combat boots stepped on the blood-red carpet as he walked into the palace step by step. After the Battle of Eastcom City, Gong Xiangming's name shook the world. He was already the #1 general of the Tianji Empire in name and in reality. After Zhang Qing died in battle, under the circumstances where all the generals were helpless, this Confucian scholar stepped forward and turned the tide. Not only did he win a good reputation, but he also established his position in the Tianji Empire. Even the Emperor Baiming Yuan thought highly of this Confucian marshal. Marshal Gong is here? Give him a seat, Baiming Yuan said. Thank you, Your Majesty. Gong Xiangming knelt on the ground and said, but I can't take a seat. There's new news coming from afar. This news makes me feel very embarrassed. What news? Si Kongyao and Bai Zai's mercenaries have occupied Huiyuan City. The entire Huiyuan province's dozens of prefectures have fallen one by one. Bai Zai's mercenaries have a very big appetite. Not only Xishan province, but they've even swallowed Huiyuan province. Preposterous. Baiming Yuan slammed the table and stood up. His face was full of anger. What is this little girl Si Kongyao thinking? Is she trying to seize half of my empire? Marshal Gong, as the empire's marshal, you defeated the Celestial Empire's million-strong army in the Battle of Eastcom City. You must have a way to take back 2 provinces from Si Kongyao, right? Gong Xiangming's face was livid. Your Majesty, I can't. Why? Gong Xiangming raised his head to look at Baiming Yuan and said, First, our national treasury is already empty. We can't take out more food and weapons to fight. Second, our military strength has declined to an unprecedented level. The Battle of Eastcom City was a decisive battle against the Celestial Empire's million-strong army with the Tianji Empire's national strength. After the battle, Qinyu was defeated, and we weren't much better off. Yanji Corps, Lanji Corps, and the newly formed army numbered nearly 500,000 people, but only less than 200,000 are left. Moreover, many of them are heavily injured, and many of them are unable to step onto the battlefield again. On the other hand, Si Kongyao's Bai Zai's mercenaries only had one chance to directly enter the battlefield. That was an ambush on the border of Huiyuan province. They didn't suffer many losses at all. Instead, they captured many of the Celestial Empire's troops. Together with the troops they recruited, the Bai Zai's mercenaries now have at least 250,000 soldiers. In terms of strength, we are no longer above Bai Zai's mercenaries. What? Baiming Yuan felt a chill in his heart when he heard this. He said, if I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have invited the Bai Zai's mercenaries for reinforcements. This is simply inviting a wolf into the house. I was foolish. Gong Xiangming smiled faintly. Your Majesty, you are not foolish. If Si Kongyao's Bai Zai's mercenaries hadn't schemed in the forest of no return, I'm afraid that Qinyu wouldn't have been defeated. If you hadn't invited Si Kongyao, the Tianji Empire would have perished. Now what should we do? Bai Yuan asked with an ashen face. Gong Xiangming said, it's true that the Bai Zai's mercenaries have invited a wolf into the house. This is a bad thing, but it's not like we can't turn a bad thing into a good thing. Marshal Gong, please speak. Your Majesty, in the end, Si Kongyao hasn't completely fallen out with us yet. She is still the Princess of Shiping in the Tianji Empire. In my opinion, why don't you grant Si Kongyao an imperial edict and order her to lead the Bai Zai's mercenaries to attack the Liaishan province of the Blackstone Empire? In this way we can take advantage of the situation and take back 2 provinces at one go. This is called, when the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Alright. Bai Yuan stood up and said, we'll act according to the plan. But what if Si Kongyao doesn't accept my edict? It's her business whether she accepts it or not. It's your business whether to issue the edict or not. Gong Xiangming said faintly, Your Majesty, I would like to use your golden token. What's the use of my golden token? I want to go to the Tianji sect to meet the sect leader, Si Kongming. I'm afraid that he's the only one who can restrain Si Kongyao at this moment. Okay. In the afternoon at the Tianji sect's main altar, Gong Xiangming held the Empire's golden token in his hand and led dozens of guards into the main altar. Along the way there was a lot of chatter. It seemed that spring came earlier in the Tianji sect's main altar compared to other places. In the depths of the main altar, pear blossoms were in full bloom. It was rare to see such beautiful and exquisite things in Tianji City. Even the imperial garden of the Tianji Palace was not as elegant and unique as this. In the depths of the pear blossoms was a thatched cottage. It was Si Kongming's residence. A disciple walked in front and said respectfully, Sect leader Marshal Gong Xiangming requests an audience. Creak. The wooden door opened slowly. Si Kongming, who was dressed in a white robe, walked out in high spirits. However, if one looked closely, one would notice that his feet did not touch the ground at all. Every step he took caused a layer of frost to ripple. It was very magical. I wonder why Marshal is looking for an old man like me? Si Kongming said with a smile. He was very amiable and amiable. Gong Xiangming immediately bowed and said respectfully, Old sect leader, I am here for Miss Si Kongyao's matter. Old sect leader, do you know what Miss Si Kongyao has been doing recently? Si Kongming smiled and said, Are you talking about Yao? I don't know. Yao has already grown up. Even an old man like me can't control her anymore. I won't ask what Yao is doing. So, I'm afraid that Marshal has come for nothing. Old sect leader. Gong Xiangming's voice was filled with sincerity as he said, The Bei's mercenaries under Miss Si Kongyao's command have already consecutively plundered the West Mountain and Huiyuan provinces. Her actions are tantamount to treason. Are you really going to sit back and do nothing? Treason? Is that so? Si Kongming had a kind look on his face. He smiled and said, Didn't His Majesty confer her the title of West Mountain Commandery Princess? If that's the case, he must have bestowed 2 fiefs to Yao. This is the honor of our Si Kong family. Our ancestral graves are emitting green smoke. Gong Xiangming frowned and said, Old sect master, how can His Imperial Majesty endure your words? Eldest young Miss Si Kongyao attacked the Fire Element province without even giving us a heads up. If His Imperial Majesty investigates this matter, I'm afraid it will not be easy to resolve. Si Kongming's face turned cold. What? Investigate? Whoever dares to touch a hair on my granddaughter can try. Don't think that I, Si Kongming, can't do anything for decades. Let me tell you, this old man is still strong and healthy. Gong Xiangming was stunned. Old sect leader, you mean, you don't care what Miss Yao does outside, but if His Majesty wants to punish her, you will definitely intervene, right? That's right. Si Kongming gently stroked his beard and said, This old man has already said that everything in the world has nothing to do with me and the Tianji sect. Yao is a sensible child. I can understand what she does, but if anyone wants to hurt Yao, then don't blame me, Si Kongming, for fighting to the death with these old bones of mine. Gong Xiangming's expression was blank. He had never seen such an unreasonable person in his life. Furthermore, this person was actually the sect master of the Celestial Polarity sect, known as the strongest expert in the Celestial Pole continent. Even that radiant angel Zai might not be stronger than Si Kongming, but he would definitely not be as unreasonable as Gong Xiangming. This was simply an old fox. Gong Xiangming secretly thought this, but he couldn't do anything. If he angered Si Kongming, the consequences would be unimaginable. Si Kongming's strength was unfathomable. It was possible that he could kill his way into the palace and kill the emperor. Then, I'll take my leave. I won't see you off, Marshal. Remember not to hurt my Yao. Otherwise the marshal will understand. Yes, Gong Xiangming slowly backed out of the pear garden, his face looking even worse than before. He had accepted the position of general in the face of danger, but now it seemed that it was really not an easy position to hold. When Bai Minghuan was in power he had been eating and drinking all day, but now that he was in power he had to live in fear every day. Every day felt like a year. Marshal Gong, what do we do now? Long Ji Corps Commander Castor asked uneasily. What else can we do? Let's just take it one step at a time. Castor frowned. I'm afraid we can't wait for you to take it one step at a time. Recently, many important officials in the court have been talking about you behind your back. Maybe one day someone will jointly impeach you. What are they talking about? They said. Castor wanted to say something but stopped. No need to worry. Just say it, Commander. Yes. Castor nodded and said, they are talking about you, saying that you are a cannibal marshal who gave the order to eat people in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Now that we have been trapped in East P City for more than a month, your subordinates have eaten more than 200,000 corpses, including the civilians of East Peace Province. Even the governor's 3 daughters were eaten. They said that you, a cannibal marshal, are not even human, so how can you be a marshal? Marshal Gong, don't be angry. These are just the words of some vile people. I know. Gong Xiangming stood in the cold wind, his marshal's cloak fluttering in the wind. Under the cloak his body looked a little thin. He sighed and said, it's so cold. Let's go back early. Yes. However, when Gong Xiangming came to the edge of the horse, he slipped a few times in the stirrups and even leaned over the horse's back, pressing his face tightly into the saddle. The saddle was very cold, but not his heart. Gong Xiangming did not know whether he was doing the right thing or not. He did not even know whether he should step out with his left foot or right foot. Marshal Gong, are you okay? Castor asked in a low voice. I'm fine. Gong Xiangming looked up and said, it seems that old sect master Sikong Ming's path won't work either. We have to think of other ways to take back the 2 provinces from Sikong Yao. Otherwise, the south will not be stable and the Qinji Empire will soon be fragmented. Castor nodded. Yes. He helped Gong Xiangming onto the horse and held the reins. He said, Marshal Gong, do you still want to continue fighting for those ungrateful vile people? Gong Xiangming straightened his iron helmet, his eyes blazing like torches. No, I continue to fight for my eternal glory, not for them, not anymore, Castor. Chapter 970. On the 9th day of the 2nd month, King Lanji led the delegation to Shiping City. Naturally, he was solemnly welcomed by the Baizhe mercenaries. When more than 100 members of the delegation were escorted by the Baizhe mercenaries into the governor's mansion, King Lanji's complexion was very ugly. This time, Shang Qin wasn't in Shiping City, so King Lanji didn't have any trump cards in his hands. The governor's mansion's meeting hall was resplendent with gold and jade, just like a palace. Si Kongyao's pair of long legs were wearing leather boots, and she was wearing a golden cloak. She was sitting on the throne at the end of the golden stairs like a queen. Below her were 2 rows of Bai's mercenary generals, who were clad in armor and had torch-like eyes. Each of them was murderous, as if they would swallow King Lanji alive at any time. Welcome, Your Highness King Lanji. Si Kongyao stood up and gracefully saluted. King Lanji was a little frightened. He said, Princess Yao, you're too polite. Si Kongyao went straight to the point. I wonder why Your Highness has come to Shiping City this time? More than 2 months ago, Your Highness invited the Baizhe mercenaries to go on an expedition to East Com City. We've already done it. This Shishan province is a fief that His Majesty personally conferred to me. You wouldn't go back on your word, would you? No, how could that be? King Lanji's face was full of embarrassment. He said, This time I've come only to inquire about the Fire Element Province. The Fire Element Province is one of the 4 major provinces of the Empire. It was originally Marshal Bai Minghuan's fief. His Majesty wants me to ask, why did the Baizhe mercenaries seize the provinces of the Fire Element Province? Princess Yao, you must give me an explanation. Otherwise, I won't be able to report back to His Majesty. Oh, so it's like this. Si Kongyao turned around and returned to her throne. She smiled and said, This is what happened. The 400,000-strong army of the Celestial Empire passed through the Fire Element Province, burning and looting everywhere. For the safety of the people and the common people, I ordered the Baizhe mercenaries to pursue and kill them. However, the enemy was too strong and we lost every battle. In the end, we lost cities after cities. By the time the army of the Celestial Empire passed by, most of the cities in the Fire Element province had already fallen. When I wanted to take back the cities, I realized that the Fire Element city had already been occupied by the Demon Spirit army led by the Monster Emperor Nusslayer. However, the Empire's army was exhausted, and it was not a good time to start a war. Therefore, I decided to make peace with the Monster Emperor Nusslayer and temporarily let the Demon Spirit tribe live in the Fire Element province. Borrow? King Lanji couldn't help but laugh. Since the ancient times there has never been such a ridiculous thing. How can you borrow a city? Moreover, Princess Yao has already lent a quarter of the territory of the Tianji Empire. How can there be such a method? Si Kongyao spread out her hands and smiled. Then I have no other choice. Anyway, there are 200,000 demon spirits living in the Fire Element city. Nusslayer will personally guard it. If King Lanji thinks that you have the ability to take back the Fire Element province, then go ahead. I Si Kongyao will not interfere. The corner of King Lanji's mouth twitched a few times. The combat strength of the Demon Spirit tribe was obvious to everyone. It was impossible to destroy the 200,000 Demon Spirit army without double the military strength. Moreover, Si Kongyao wasn't just being an alarmist. Princess, how long have you lent the Fire Element province? King Lanji began to look for a way to maneuver. 1 year, Si Kongyao said. 1 year. King Lanji frowned and said, in that case 1 year it is. After 1 year, Commander Gong will naturally lead the Empire's army to the Fire Element province to take back the lost land. At that time, even if the demon spirits are unwilling, they can't do anything. Of course, Your Highness King Lanji didn't come to Shiping City just for this, right? Of course not. King Lanji gently waved her hand and said, come ask for His Majesty's Imperial Edict. An attendant respectfully walked forward with a golden scroll in his hands. Immediately, Liu Bai and the other generals of the Baizhe mercenary army knelt down one after another. Si Kongyao also knelt down on one knee on the steps, remaining silent. The attendant said in a clear voice, the Baizhe mercenary army is incomparably brave. They have broken through the enemy and seized the city, raising the national prestige. The Princess of Shiping, Si Kongyao, is both intelligent and brave. She can be called the treasure of the nation. However, the enemy has not been defeated yet. Recently, I heard that the Blackstone Empire has repeatedly wanted to invade our territory. Therefore, I order that Si Kongyao will lead the Baizhe mercenary army to attack the northern border of the Liaison province. The Ministry of War will send 100,000 weapons, 50,000 sets of armor, and 1 million dawn of military provisions within 10 days. Once they arrive, the troops will be dispatched immediately without delay. Si Kongyao raised her head and said, I accept the Imperial Edict. Thank you. King Lanji smiled and said, His Majesty said that as long as the Princess of Shiping captures the land, she and the Baizhe mercenary army will be conferred the title of Shiping Princess. If the princess can really attack Qianshan City and conquer the capital of the Blackstone Empire, His Majesty will confer the title of Shiping Princess to her. She will be the first queen with a different surname in the Celestial Pole continent. It sounds very good. Si Kongyao raised the corner of her mouth and said, Your Highness, please go back and tell His Majesty that Si Kongyao will do her best to work for the Tianji Empire. However, please also ask His Majesty to deliver the supplies to us as soon as possible. Now, the Baizhe mercenary army lacks people, horses, weapons and everything else. If His Majesty doesn't give us enough supplies, I'm afraid we won't be able to attack Qianshan City. Yes, I will tell His Majesty exactly what you said. Well, thank you. Tonight, there will be a banquet in the Governor Mansion. Your Highness, please do me the honor. Thank you very much. When King Lanji and the others went to the courier house to rest, Si Kongyao gently waved her hand. A group of generals of the Baizhe mercenary army dispersed, and Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also came out from the side hall. What should we do, brother Yu? Si Kongyao's elegant brows knit together slightly as she said, The Emperor wants me to attack the mountain range province. Isn't this forcing a duck onto a perch? Although the Baize mercenaries can be considered a strong and well-trained army, attacking Shiwan's nest is tantamount to seeking one's own death. Let alone Shiwan, even the Thunderflame sect's Long she would not agree. Lin Muyu couldn't help laughing and said, You don't have any idea, but I see that you have a well-thought-out plan when you receive the Imperial Edict. I have to put on an act for others to see. Si Kongyao pouted and inadvertently revealed a girl-next-door look. She walked forward and pulled Lin Muyu's wrist saying, No matter what, you, Sister Qinin and Sister Tang Xiaoxi, must think of a way before you leave the celestial pole mainland. There is a way. Oh? Say it. Say it. Lin Muyu said, you are far away from Tianji City. You don't need to worry about obeying the imperial edict. You can pretend to obey and cheat them of weapons and provisions. Then you can use all kinds of reasons to refuse to send troops. In fact, Tianji City can't do anything to you. What are the reasons to refuse? Do you still need me to teach you this? Come, Yao, listen carefully. I will tell you 10,000 reasons. Insufficient weapons, too many soldiers who are not acclimatized to the climate, too many of them are sick, the city is in disrepair, mountain bandits are causing trouble in the provinces, insufficient provisions are prepared, there are rumors in the army that a mutiny is imminent, there are people in the imperial court who want to harm you, your grandfather Sikong is asking you to go back for a meal, the demon monarch's daughter is disloyal and you have to guard against her, the human. Traffickers are rampant in Shiping City and you have to deal with them, heroes have appeared in various prefectures and you have to recruit them, the grievances of the people need to be appeased, you are in a bad mood, your period is coming, you have a little mood, your appetite is not too good, you are too lazy to move around, the year is not good, it is raining. Lin Muyu rattled off a long list of reasons, which made Si Kongyao's jaw drop and she was dumbfounded. Alright, stop. Si Kongyao held Lin Muyu's wrist and said, Brother Yu, you are so awesome. Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, when it comes to the cultivation of a wily old fox, this guy didn't have so many cunning ideas when he first came to Lanyan City. Look at him now, Xiaoyin, you don't even care about him. If you let him go on like this, how can we control him in the future? Qinin smiled faintly and said, I can't do anything about this. Just take it that he is smart. In fact, if this method was given to General Feng, he would have come up with more ideas. That's true, they are all wily old foxes. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Alright, don't be busy with personal attacks. It has been 2 months since we came to the celestial pole continent. I don't know if there are any unusual movements in Lanyan City recently. Let's have a good night's sleep tonight and return to Lanyan City early tomorrow morning. As for the celestial pole continent, I will leave it to Yao and Lu Bai. Si Kongyao nodded confidently and said, Well, don't worry, leave it to me. Then, when will you come again, brother Yu? The next time you come. I'm afraid you will bring an army of 1 million. Oh, okay. Si Kongyao's eyes lit up and she smiled and said, Can brother Yu really conquer the heart of the celestial pole continent? Yes, if you conquer the celestial pole continent, you can be the queen of the whole celestial pole continent and pay taxes to Lanyan City every year. Queen, Si Kongyao smiled and said, I don't have much interest in being a queen, but if brother Yu wants Yao to be the queen then I will. But if you guys ascend to the immortal realm, I will also go with you. Okay, it's a deal. The next morning Lin Muyu, Qinin and Tang Xiaoxi quietly left the celestial pole continent, as if they had never been there. However, Si Kongyao and the others knew that it was precisely because of Lin Muyu's arrival that Qinyu suffered a great defeat. It was just that Qinyu was currently in his own country, training his troops after suffering a humiliation, so he was completely unaware of this. Songnan Province, Silver Fir City. In spring, hundreds of flowers were in full bloom. This small city was as beautiful as a painting, but after repeated battles, plagues had spread. There were swarms of refugees in the city and many people were infected. The spiritual medicine department was short of manpower and medicine, so there was no time to save people. As a result, there were piles of white bones on the roadside, which was unbearable to look at. Outside the city, fragrant grass stretched to the sky. Many refugees were lying in the grass, moaning in pain. There were many types of plagues and each person's illness was different. As a result, the people of the spiritual medicine department were completely helpless. A white-robed young lady from the spiritual medicine department frowned slightly. After diagnosing an old man, her complexion became even more unsightly. Miss, is there no hope for me? The emaciated old man asked, panting heavily. No, there will be hope. The young lady stood up and said to the 2 apprentices of the spiritual medicine department, Prepare some 7 flavors soup. It might be able to cure them. The 2 apprentices nodded respectfully. Yes, Administrator Lan Yen. But at this moment, a voice came from behind Lan Yen, 7 flavors soup is useless. This kind of plague that causes blood corruption can only be treated with marrow cleansing soup that purifies the blood. Ah. Lan Yen had followed Chu Yao for many years, but she had never heard of this marrow cleansing soup. When she turned to look at the person who spoke, she was instantly stunned. The woman who spoke was tall and slender. She wore a gray robe, but it could not hide her beauty that could cause the downfall of nations. The faint arrogance between her brows was also not something an ordinary woman could have. "You are?" Lan Yen asked. "A traveling doctor, Shiyen." The blazing angel smiled gently, revealing a row of beautiful white teeth. Chapter 971. A traveling healer? Lan Yen frowned slightly. "I've never heard of such a person in the Empire. We only have the spirit medicine department and healers. I've never heard of a traveling healer." If a medicine store is a healer, then a person who carries medicine everywhere to save people is naturally a traveling healer. Shiyin smiled faintly. It was at this time that an apprentice flew up and whispered into Lan Yan's ear, "Attendant Lan, I've heard of this traveling healer before. There are legends about her from Five Valleys City to Silver Fir City. People say that a beautiful woman as beautiful as a goddess goes around saving lives, and that she can cure any ailment no matter what it is. This must be her." Lan Yan's eyes lit up. If that's the case, would Miss Shiyin be willing to work with our spirit medicine department to cure this plague? But Shiyin shook her head. "No need, I'm used to doing things my own way. It's best if I don't get disturbed. I'll save my people, you guys save yours." Saying so, she turned to leave. Lan Yan hurriedly said, "Wait a moment, Miss Shiyin. What is it? What is the recipe for this marrow cleansing soup you speak of? Many of the people here are suffering from this deadly disease. Without a cure, it will be difficult to suppress this plague in a short time." Seeing her sincerity, Shiyin smiled. "The marrow cleansing soup is very simple. Boil the roots of purple serpent vine and the petals of peace bloom for 2 hours." "Just purple serpent vine and peace bloom?" Lan Yen bit her lip. "One is a level 2 herb, the other a level 3 herb. It's not that hard to find. But it's difficult to cure so many people because there aren't that many herbs to pick." Shiyin stared at Lan Yen, speaking indifferently. "The national treasuries are unwilling to allocate gold coins to buy herbs to treat the refugees. To the local authorities, refugees are a burden and might as well die. Miss, they call you attendant, so it seems that you're also one of the stewards. Do you have the authority to obtain herbs from the pharmacists in the various cities?" It was obvious that this traveling doctor had been rejected many times. Lan Yen couldn't help but feel a little guilty. "Don't worry, Miss Shiyin. I am one of the 12 deacons of the Imperial Spirit Medicine Department. My medallion is enough to command all the pharmacies in the area. As for the ingredients, I can use whatever they have. If you don't believe me, you can come with me to Silver Fir City. I've never brewed this marrow cleansing soup before. If you truly care about the people of the world, then please come with me. We will be brewing the soup in large cauldrons at the 4 city gates of Silver Fir City." "This?" Shiyin remained silent. "What? Don't you want to save more people?" Lan Yen asked. Shiyin pursed her lips. Actually, when she first came to the Shattered Cauldron realm, she was simply at a loss and didn't know what to do. After seeing so many refugees, she decided to play the role of a quack doctor for fun. However, after experiencing so many things in the past 2 months, Shiyin increasingly felt that she was leading a stable life. It turned out that saving people was more interesting than killing them. "In that case, I'll come with you. But I'll leave once you learn how to brew the marrow cleansing soup. I'll be sure to listen to you when the time comes. Get on the horses and enter the city." Lan Yin led a group of 50 light cavalry. This cavalry was responsible for protecting the employees of the Spirit Medicine Department. After all, the aftermath of the war was extremely chaotic. Bandits were rampant, and medicinal ingredients were scarce and valuable. Those bandits were willing to do anything just to steal a few ingredients. Almost every Spirit Medicine Department deacon on patrol was accompanied by a group like this. With an army by their side, it was much more convenient. Inside Silver Fir City, Lan Yen led the army straight to the city lord's mansion. Everyone wore the insignia of Lan Yen City's Qin family, so naturally no one dared to stop them. That was until they saw a fat man dressed in official robes. This humble official, the governor of Silver Fir City, Zhang Qian, greets Deacon Lan Yen. The fat man cupped his hands in greeting. In truth, everyone in Silver Fir City knew that Zhang Qian was originally just a local medicine merchant. Silver Fir City was close to the 7-star forest and had an abundance of medicinal ingredients. It was through selling medicine that Zhang Qian had made a fortune. In the end, he had bought the title of Silver Fir City's city lord from a certain official of the parliament. Moreover, the status of the city lord of Silver Fir City was definitely above that of the Spirit Medicine Department's deacons. At the very least, they were equal, but Zhang Qian was extremely respectful towards them. There was no other reason for this. He knew Lan Yen because she was the Spirit Medicine Department's chief deacon Chu Yao, and Chu Yao was Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. A word from Lan Yen was probably worth more than 10,000 Jinin coins. The fat man raised his head and saw Shi Yan behind Lan Yen. He couldn't help but frown. Why are you here again? Shi Yan's eyes were indifferent and she didn't say a word. Lan Yen asked, What is it, Lord Jiang knows Miss Shi Yan? Deacon, you may not know this, but for the past half a month, this woman has been coming to me every few days to ask for medicinal ingredients. She says that she wants to treat the refugees. How can there be so many people who want to be treated? She's clearly trying to swindle my medicinal ingredients and sell them for money. Has the city lord not left the city to take a look at the refugees outside? Lan Yen narrowed her beautiful eyes. It was obvious that Zhang Qian hadn't left the city to take a look. Lan Yen couldn't be bothered to waste her breath on him. Lord Zhang, how many medicinal ingredients do we have in Silver Fir City's storehouse? We have enough. Very good. Please give me 500 kilograms of purple serpent vine and 500 kilograms of peace bloom immediately. Also, give me 40 cauldrons to boil medicine in. This? Zhang Qian was shocked. Using so many resources, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? I will sign the receipt. Are you saying that the medicinal ingredients stored in Silver Fir City storehouse are not meant to be used to save people? Lan Yen looked at the fatty with a burning gaze. If they are not, I will report it to Her Majesty the Empress. No. Zhang Qian shook his head repeatedly. This lowly official will give them to the deacon. That's good. I will wait for you in the Spirit Medicine Department's tent outside the eastern city gates. Yes, this lowly official will make the arrangements immediately. Zhang Qian bowed deeply, but when he raised his head, he shot a venomous look at Shi Yan. This woman was definitely the reason he had lost such a large fortune. If he had sold off these medicinal ingredients, he would have earned thousands of Jinin coins at the very least. Shi Yan, on the other hand, was extremely calm. She looked back at Zhang Qian without a ripple in her eyes. By dusk, the medicinal soup had already begun to be boiled at the 4 city gates. Lan Yen and Shi Yan personally distributed bowls of soup to the refugees, one for each person. It was more than enough to cure the plague of the deadly blood plague. They busied themselves until late at night. By then, most of the refugees had drunk the medicine, and many of their conditions had rapidly improved. Lan Yen arranged for Shi Yan to stay in the most remote tent in the Spirit Medicine Department because Shi Yan didn't want to be disturbed. Shi Yan would leave at daybreak, and she didn't want to be tied down by anyone. In the middle of the night, Shi Yan lay peacefully in the tent. Her divine power had dried up, but her spirit sense and consciousness were still there. She could even hear the sound of the spring rain nourishing all living things. It was so real. It had been many years since she had been so close to the earth. Shi Yan suddenly felt her heart calm down. Hugging the warm quilt, she curled up like a cute shrimp and slept soundly. After an unknown amount of time, a flurry of footsteps suddenly came from the distance. Shi Yan abruptly woke up. Her consciousness had sensed a murderous aura. This murderous aura was coming from the direction of Silver Fir City, and there were quite a few of them. Could they be coming for me? Suddenly, Shi Yan recalled Zhang Qian's venomous gaze during the day. That's right, it must be him. Sitting up from the bed, she calmly put on her clothes and put on the gray cloak that she bought with 4 silver coins. Then she raised her hand and gripped her sword, Burning Moon. Crash. The flaps to the small tent were suddenly lifted open, revealing the face of a black-faced man. The moment he saw Shi Yan, he immediately thrust his sword forward without even a greeting. But after a muffled grunt, he took several steps back and fell to the ground. There was a bloody hole in his neck. His throat had been pierced by a sword. Damn it. The other dozen or so people had ashen faces. When they looked up, they saw Shi Yan slowly walking out of the tent. You want to kill me? Shi Yan smiled. That's right. You ruined my plans and now you've killed one of my men. I had wanted to take you as a concubine, but it looks like I can't keep you around anymore. The one who spoke was a fatty dressed in bulky armor. It didn't take a genius to know that it was Zhang Qian. Zhang Qian was a merchant, and not only was he greedy for profit, but he was also lustful. There was no doubt that a top-grade mature lady like Shi Yan was fatally attractive, but Shi Yan had been so decisive in killing him just now. Although the fatty was lustful, he was still deadly. Go. Kill her. A group of bodyguards disguised as assassins charged forward. Although Shi Yan had lost her divine power, her swordsmanship and mental cultivation were still there. Blazing Moon began to hum in her hand. Just who was she? She was a blazing angel of the god realm, and her will was unwavering. Good people must be saved and bad people must be killed. Blazing moon swung out, its edge releasing countless rays of light. It was Shiyan's 7 slashes, split. Blood splattered everywhere. Shiyan might not be a match for a god realm or even a saint realm expert, but against these mortals who were at most in the earth realm, she was simply a crushing existence. As soon as Blazing Moon appeared, more than 10 people died tragically in an instant. Zhang Qian was horrified and he turned around to leave without thinking. But how could he leave? Shiyan caught up with him as fast as lightning, and Blazing Moon went straight through Zhang Qian's heart. Murder, murder, a group of bodyguards retreated in a panic. In the blink of an eye, torches were raised on the official road, and the cavalry in the city was actually already there. White drill arrows were pointed straight at Shiyan, and everyone was ready to fight. Shiyan was silent, and her heart was a little perturbed. Was she going to fail miserably here? These white drill arrows were quite powerful, and she had already experienced them from a hunter. At this moment a voice rang out, "Stop!" The person who spoke was Lan Yen, a deacon from the spiritual medicine department in the capital. Chapter 972. There was a brigadier general among the cavalry who wore a silver 3-star emblem around his neck. He commanded about 500 men and commanded about 500 men. He urged his horse forward and raised his eyebrows. "Attendant Lan, you are a lord of the Spirit Medicine Division, but I advise you to stay out of Kathaya City's military affairs. This woman killed the city lord, and we must punish her severely according to the law." Several soldiers carried Zhang Qian's corpse over. A sword had pierced through his throat, and it was a fatal wound. Lan Yen frowned and said, "Why is Lord Zhang wearing a black knight suit? Why did you sneak into the Spirit Medicine Department's camp?" The brigadier general was taken aback for a moment before replying, "I don't know, but since this woman killed the city lord, we must arrest her. I know that Deacon Lan has a friendship with her, but I hope that Deacon Lan doesn't get involved in this matter. This is not something you should concern yourself with." Lan Yen said indifferently, "Shiyan is a doctor. As a doctor, why would she kill someone on a whim? I believe there must be a reason behind this. Why don't I take Shiyan back to Lanyan City and hand her over to the Firefinch department to investigate? What do you think, General?" "That won't do. Silver First City's matters should be handled by the garrison." The brigadier general didn't seem to hold back. He waved his hand and said, "Men, tie up this traveling doctor." A group of cavalrymen pulled out their swords and quickly surrounded Shiyan. However, the blazing moon, in Shiyan's hand, emitted a scorching light, forcing the group of people to retreat. Even the 6 dazzling wings behind Shiyan were faintly discernible. "Who dares touch me?" Shiyan's eyes were cold. "These people wanted to assassinate me, so I killed them. Come at me if you don't want to live. I'll kill every single one of you." Lan Yen gaped. "Shiyan." At this moment, Shiyan didn't look like a traveling doctor at all. She looked more like a goddess of war. Just at that moment, the sound of galloping horses could be heard from the distance. Before the horses could catch up, a figure broke through the spatial barrier and appeared in the middle of everyone. It was a divine-level expert. She wore a white robe and had an exquisite and beautiful figure. If it wasn't Chu Yao, who else could it be? "What is it?" Chu Yao looked around. "What brings you here, Grand Administrator?" Lan Yen was overjoyed. Chu Yao frowned. "I heard that the plague in Kathaya City is very serious and is spreading to the north, so I came to take a look. What's going on here?" The brigadier general and the others also recognized Chu Yao. The chief administrator of the Spirit Medicine Department was someone who attended every court meeting. She was an important existence in the Empire's 6 ministries and 3 ministries. "Greetings, Grand Administrator." The brigadier general quickly got off his horse and knelt down. He knew very well how important Chu Yao was in Lanyan City. She wasn't just a simple Grand Administrator, but someone close to Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Feng Jixing. She was an insider who wielded real power in the empire. It was best not to provoke such a person unless one was tired of living. "You still haven't told me what's going on." Chu Yao glanced at Shiyan, then at Lan Yen. "Yen, what's going on?" Shiyan looked at Chu Yao with a condescending gaze. Although Shiyan wasn't as strong as Chu Yao, who was a divine realm expert, she was many times stronger in terms of mental cultivation. Lan Yen bowed. "Great Deacon, the deadly blood disease has basically been cured." "Cured? What happened?" Chu Yao was stunned. "It's the help of a traveling doctor named Shiyan. She provided us with a prescription and decocted the medicine according to the prescription. The epidemic has basically been controlled. A traveling doctor? Chu Yao looked at Shi Yan in astonishment. The surname was very strange. She had only heard of the surname Shi once. It was Qin Yin's name in Lingnan Xin. However, she seemed to have heard of the name Shi Yan before, but Chu Yao couldn't remember where she heard it. Moreover, Shi Yan didn't look like a local. She had a head of light blonde hair and a figure that made Chu Yao a little jealous. To be honest, very few women in the Shattered Cauldron realm had such a figure. At the same time, when Chu Yao's eyes met Shi Yan's, she felt like she was looking into a vast domain. She couldn't see through Shi Yan's depths at all. This kind of person wasn't simple. It was best to be cautious. And so, Chu Yao became respectful. Many thanks to Miss Shi Yan for controlling the plague for Kathaya City. Chu Yao thanks Miss Shi Yan on behalf of all the people of the world. Shi Yan raised her eyebrows. She found this rather amusing. This Chu Yao didn't look like a low official, but she wasn't as arrogant as the others. She nodded. There's no need to be so polite, Chu Yao. It was at this moment that the Brigadier General frowned. Great Attendant, this Miss Shi Yan killed Lord Zhang Qian and a dozen or so brothers of Kathaya City not too long ago. Their corpses are all here and we have both witnesses and evidence. Chu Yao's gaze swept across the scene. She was extremely intelligent and immediately understood the reason behind it. Zhang Qian must have tried to kill Shi Yan because of her beauty or some other unspeakable reason, but Shi Yan had killed him in the end. This kind of person's death wasn't something to be regretted, and there was no need to pay any attention to him. Thus Chu Yao consoled, "Do not worry, General. I will personally bring Shi Yan to Lanyan City and hand her over to Lord Xiao Han of Firefinch Bureau. If you are still worried, you can come with me to the capital." The Brigadier General was taken aback. He hurriedly cupped his fists. "There's no need. I trust you, Great Attendant. Please make the decision." He had also done a lot of shady things with Zhang Qian in private, and these kinds of people were most afraid of meeting people like Xiao Han of the Fire Sparrow Division. If they went to meet Xiao Han together, it was possible that before they could avenge Zhang Qian, Xiao Han might find out about their own dirty secrets. "Then let's do it this way," Chu Yao said indifferently. "We will depart at dawn and return to Lanyan City. It just so happens that you and Her Highness Yin should be returning as well." "Yes, Great Attendant," everyone replied in unison. Shi Yan smiled faintly. She had heard it clearly. The Her Highness Yin that Chu Yao spoke of was probably Xin, wasn't it? It had been a long time since she had seen her younger sister, and it actually made Shi Yan a little nervous. At daybreak, they sped along the official road back to Lanyan City. They had arrived after 2 days and 2 nights of travel. February 8th, Lanyan City. Not long after Chu Yao and the rest entered the spiritual medicine department, they heard the news that the Empress Qin Yin had returned to Zetian Palace Hall. As such, Chu Yao brought Shi Yan, Lan Yan, and the rest to Zetian Palace Hall before they could even have lunch. The staff of the spiritual medicine department knew some martial arts, so even a weak girl like Lan Yan knew how to ride a horse. The group of people rode tall horses on the bustling streets of Tongtian Street, and it was particularly eye-catching. Shi Yan, on the other hand, looked at everything around her with a gloomy gaze. She found it hard to believe that this was the city that Shi Yin had ruled over. It was indeed incomparably prosperous. Even if it was compared to the most prosperous city under the rule of the Western God Realm, it would not lose out to the most prosperous city under the rule of the Western God Realm. The commoners, on the other hand, looked at them with astonishment and respect. The plague was rampant in the empire, and it was this group of white-robed staff of the spiritual medicine department who were running around the borders of the plague. They had long won the respect of the people. Furthermore, many of these staff were young and beautiful women, and they were simply too eye-catching. Zetian Palace Hall was as dignified and solemn as ever. When Chu Yao brought Shi Yan into the main hall, the guards outside the hall slowly rang the bell 3 times. Inside the hall it wasn't court time. Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, and Tang Xiaoxi were still wearing the clothes they wore in the Celestial Pole continent. When they heard that Chu Yao had something to discuss with them, they came out to welcome her. Qin Yin's eyes were still closed. Supported by Tang Xiaoxi, she walked over. She couldn't capture Shi Yan's aura because Shi Yan's aura was too weak at the moment, no different from that of an ordinary person. Lin Muyu took another look at Shi Yan. He never knew that there was such a beauty in Lanyan City. Shi Yan also saw Lin Muyu. Sure enough, she was as handsome as the rumors said. Moreover, there was a faint sense of righteousness between her brows. This kind of righteousness was probably rare in the lower realms, even in the immortal realm. But when he thought of the Western divine realm, which pursued power at all costs, Shi Yan couldn't help but laugh at himself. Staring at Lin Muyu with her beautiful eyes, Shi Yan raised her index finger to her lips, signaling him not to speak. Lin Muyu didn't know what was going on. If he didn't want to speak, then so be it. Anyway, Shi Yan's aura wasn't that strong, so there was no need to worry. Sister Chu Yao, why did you come to us in such a hurry? Qinin smiled. I wanted to bring someone to see you. Oh, Your Highness, you can open your eyes. But Qinin hesitated for a moment. After all, her eyes of blazing light were rarely seen by others. At this moment, Shi Yan smiled faintly and said, It's okay. Open your eyes. Qinin's body trembled. She remembered Shi Yan's voice. Her eyelashes kept trembling and jumping. When she opened her eyes of blazing light, she saw Shi Yan's beautiful face. Sister Haiyan. Qinin was stunned. Shi Yan nodded and smiled. How is it? It's surprising, right? Qinin walked forward while trembling. She held Shi Yan's hands gently and said, But why is your cultivation gone? Sister Haiyan, what's going on? 2 streams of tears flowed down her eyes. Qinin knew how important Shi Yan's cultivation was. I'm fine, silly girl. Shi Yan wiped her tears lovingly. Lin Muyu frowned and said, Lady Shi Yan, did you destroy your own divine pact? Otherwise, you wouldn't have lost your cultivation. Yes. Shi Yan nodded and didn't deny it at all. She said, I went to the heaven realm without permission and violated the divine pact. My cultivation was taken by the law of heaven and earth. But this is also good. Also, you don't call me lady. Call me sister. I'm Xine's sister. You should take after her. Okay, Sister Shi Yan. Hee. That's right. It feels good to have a younger brother. Lin Muyu wasn't in the mood to joke. She said, Sister Shi Yan, you went to the heaven realm and lost your cultivation. That means you betrayed the Western divine realm. Aren't you afraid that Claude will send people to kill you? I am. That's why I came to find you. With you guys protecting me, I'll be safe. Chapter 973. Actually, even if Claude doesn't chase after you, you're still in danger. Lin Muyu said, In the plain where the Celestial Pole Continent and the Shattered Cauldron Realm are located, there are still quite a number of perfected gods, and all of them are from the Celestial Pole Continent, right? Yes. Shi Yan nodded and smiled. When I just arrived, I sensed the auras of 7 perfected god the Arch Realm experts. They are indeed in the east, not in the Shattered Cauldron Realm. 7 auras? Qinin was slightly stunned. Why are there so many? Lin Muyu pondered for a while and said, Xikong Ming from the Tianji sect, Han Yuan from the Celestial Empire, Longxi from the Thunder Blaze sect, and Nushi from the Demon Emperor. These 4 are all god thearchs above the 90th level. The other 3 auras should be from the Wolf Valley and the Thunder Soul tribe, the 2 hidden forces of the Celestial Pole Continent. However, they don't participate in the war, so we don't have to consider them for the time being. Shi Yan said softly, There are so many strong enemies. No wonder the Shattered Cauldron Realm is fighting so hard. As she spoke, Shi Yan's gaze landed on Tang Xiaoxi, and she couldn't help but praise, such strong fire law of divinity and demonic energy. This young lady must be Tang Xiaoxi, right? Yes, it's me. Greetings, Sister Haiyan. You're welcome. Tang Xiaoxi was naturally lively and cute. Perhaps Shi Yan was influenced by her. After sizing up Tang Xiaoxi, she said, Xiaoxi, your cultivation is probably the fastest between you and Xin. In less than a year, your godhead will definitely evolve into a fire law overgod godhead. Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth wide. Really? How could this be fake? Shi Yan smiled, although I have lost my cultivation, my eyes are definitely not wrong. The power of your forged immortal lattice has already greatly surpassed that of an ordinary forged immortal lattice. I can feel a scorching power even before the power is released. This is a sign of evolving into a master god lattice. As long as you work hard, you will be able to achieve it in a single step. Alright, thank you for your kind words, Sister Haiyan. Qinin said, Since you've come to the mortal world, you can live with us in the future. In this way you, Xiaoxi, and Sister Chu Yao can ask you if there's anything we don't understand in cultivation. Shi Yan chuckled. Yes. Since I'm here, I don't plan on leaving. Besides, there's no place for me in the 3 realms. How can that be? This Shattered Cauldron Realm will be your home in the future. Okay. Someone, Jingyue, give the order to clean up a bright and spacious room in the Phoenix Perching Hall. Sister Haiyan can live next to me. Yes, Your Highness. By the way, where are Terralin, Lake and Zhou Shimin? They're in seclusion? Qin Yin couldn't help but feel a little guilty. After all, Xian used to be a blazing angel, and Terralin and the other two had openly betrayed the Western Heaven Realm. According to Xian's temper, it would be strange if she didn't beat them up. Why are they in seclusion? Let them come out to see me. I want to lecture them. Okay. Qin Yin arranged for the imperial chef to make a sumptuous lunch while inviting Terralin and the others out of seclusion. As a result, a large table of sumptuous lunch was set up in the back hall of the Zetian Palace at noon. It was as if they were celebrating the New Year's Eve festival. When Terralin and the others arrived, they saw that Xian was also there. They immediately fell silent. Even Terralin, who would usually be killed by delicious food, was quiet. She sat there dignified and didn't dare to say a word. Why don't you look up at me, you three? Xian smiled lightly. Terralin stood up and quickly bowed. Lady Xian, we know our mistakes. You also know your mistakes? Xian was so angry that she gritted her teeth and said, Aren't you afraid of dragging down your respective families? You're running amok here. Fortunately, the Western Divine Realm is in a mess right now and we need the strength of your three great families. Otherwise, your fathers will definitely be dragged down by you and they might even lose their lives. Father is fine. Terralin was pleasantly surprised. Yes, he's fine for the time being. There have been hundreds of rebellions and wars at the border of the Heavenly Realm. The ruler has ordered the major families to suppress them, so he won't do anything to them for the time being. Terralin was overjoyed. She cautiously asked, Then? Lady Xian, have you really given up your identity as a seraph and voluntarily become a mortal? Yes, I'm not a god anymore. Xian looked at the delicious food in front of her and smiled. Being a mortal seems to be much happier than being an immortal. I finally understand why Xin and you are unwilling to ascend. No way. Terralin pointed at Qin Yin and Lin Muyu and smiled. Don't even mention how bitter these two have been in the lower realm. Not only were they forced to flee by the army of the Celestial Pole continent, but in the end, they were also bullied by a group of trash in the Congress. I'm dying of laughter. These gods of the mortal realm have so many rules. For the sake of the common people, they are unwilling to kill. If it were me, the 500,000 soldiers of the Congress would definitely kill them all. Qin Yin stared at her speechlessly. Even meat can't stop your mouth. That's not called rules, that's called foundation. The foundation left by our ancestors can't be abandoned just because we say so. This is a responsibility. Once we complete our mission, we will go to the Divine Realm. This is something that I, you, and Xiaoxi have already agreed on. Lin Muyu said, Originally, if Sister Xian, the top god emperor of the 99 heavenly caves, came to help us, we would be able to unify the plane with much less effort, but now it seems, this road is still very long. Xian curled her lips. At this moment, a voice came from the sky. Not necessarily. With a schwa sound, a ray of golden light fell from the sky and directly poured a few meters away from the dining table. On the surface of the floor tiles, Dharma images and wheels appeared, and in the blink of an eye, they gathered to form a beautiful figure. It was actually Xiao of the East Heaven. This time, the one who came was a genuine god emperor expert of the 99 heavenly caves great garden. Xian was stunned. She turned around and stood up from her seat and looked at Xiao. Long time no see, Xian. Xiao smiled lightly. Xian also smiled. Fairy Xiao, long time no see. This time you came to kill me or? Kill you? Xiao smiled. Why would I? We have been enemies and friends for so many years. Now that you are Xiao Yin's sister, you will only be our friend, and this time I came to help you. Oh. Lin Muyu stood up and said, Sister Xiao, let's not talk about this. Come and eat with us. Xiao's celestial aura was reduced to that of a mortal by her words. Is there anything delicious? It's all delicious. Oh. Therefore Xiao joined them at the lunch. While eating, Lin Muyu asked, Sister Xiao said that you will help us. How do you want to help us? Xiao said, Although your cultivation progress is very fast among the gods of the mortal world, it is still too slow for us. Once the gods of the celestial pole land wake up, and the Western Divine Realm may send gods down, I am afraid that Lanyan City will be destroyed. Therefore, after discussing with the Demon Emperor, I decided to send you to another plane to train and improve your cultivation. Of course, the main reason I came here is for Xian. For me? Xian was slightly stunned. Yes. Xiao nodded and said, The divine pact was made by the two of us together. Logically, we should bear the punishment together, but Xian, for Xiaoyin, you alone bear this price that even the gods can't bear. Therefore, Demon Emperor and I have decided to find a way to help you recover the cultivation that was taken away by the laws of heaven and earth. Can we really do that? Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi asked together. Shi Yin was silent. She knew how difficult it was. Why not? Xiao smiled. Right now, Shi Yan's body is like a dry lake. Although her power has been completely taken away, the lake is still there. What we need to do is to irrigate the lake with water. This will replenish your power. No, it's useless. Shi Yin shook her head. I've tried to refine divine power again, but many times, the little bit of divine power I refined would quickly disperse into the world. My body can no longer hold any divine power. That's right. But this is the divine power you refined in the three realms. It will naturally disperse according to the laws of the divine pact. But what if you didn't cultivate it in the three realms? Will it still disperse according to the laws of the divine pact? Shi Yin was shocked. Xiao, what do you mean by that? I want to say that I'll send you Xiaoyin and Xiaoxi to another realm outside the three realms to train. I wonder if Shi Yin is willing? Can I really recover my divine power? Yes. Xiao looked at her sincerely and said, even if I want to harm you, I will never harm you and Xiaoyin, right? Qin Yin said, Sister Haiyan, let's go. Shi Yin lost her cultivation for Qin Yin. Qin Yin already felt very guilty about it. Now that there was a chance for her to repay it, she was naturally willing. Shi Yin narrowed her eyes. From what I know, other than the sky beyond heaven, there is no other place outside the three realms, right? No, there is. It's north of the east heaven, a crack at the extreme of heaven and earth. The primordial wilderness? That's right. Shi Yin was shocked. No, Xin and Yu's physique can't withstand the impact of passing through the crack. Unless they are in the God Emperor realm, they will definitely be devoured by the profound energy in the crack. Moreover, the primordial wilderness is completely different from where we are. If we go there, who knows how long it will take for us to return. This is absolutely not possible. But what if I have this? Xiao gently opened her palm. Light instantly appeared, and a huge wheel appeared between her hands. The wheel was engraved with a scale and some incomprehensible golden characters. The Northern Region Wheel? Shi Yin was shocked. Isn't this the divine artifact that the Northern Divine Realm has lost for tens of thousands of years? That's right. Xiao chuckled. This is something I accidentally discovered in the primordial desolate ruins. If I use the Northern Heavenly Wheel to send the four of you to the primordial desolate land, it will be equivalent to opening up a completely different space. Furthermore, I can use the scale of the Northern Heavenly Wheel to make the 10 years you spend in the primordial desolate divine realm just 1 year in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Lin Muyu couldn't help but slap the table in astonishment. Go, go, go. Don't stop me. Shi Yin. Qin Yin. Chapter 974. However, going to the primordial god realm isn't that simple. I've just said that the primordial god realm is still a part of the Eastern Heaven realm. Moreover, it's located in a distant land at the border of the Eastern Heaven realm. The first requirement to go to the primordial god realm is to be in the divine realm. Xiao took a deep look at everyone and said, in short, if you want to go to the ancient god realm to practice, you must first ascend to the Eastern Heaven realm and enter the divine book of the Eastern Heaven realm before you can go to the ancient god realm. Ascend? Lin Muyu was stunned. Her overall plan was going to be disrupted. She originally planned to deal with everything in the mortal realm and turn the Qin Empire into a benign regime under the control of the parliament before leaving. She did not expect that Xiao would want them to ascend to the heaven realm now. Xiao also figured out what Lin Muyu meant, so she smiled and said, in fact, it is very simple. After ascending to the divine realm, you can still descend to the mortal realm just like me. But every time you descend to the mortal realm, your cultivation will be weakened by a part. But the higher your cultivation, the less the reduction will be. For example, it will take me about half a month to recover the lost cultivation. 4 ordinary gods, D. Lin will lose 10% to 20% of their cultivation. The cultivation of the 4 of you is not bad. The cost of returning to the mortal realm is at most 3 to 5 months of cultivation. So, have you decided? Qin Yin nodded gently. I have no problem with it. Tang Xiaoxi also said, I will go with Xiao Yin and Mu. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Shi Yin has now lost her divine power. Can she still withstand the impact of the flowing light? Moreover, Shi Yin has no divine power now. Can she ascend? Yes. Shi Yan smiled with a resolute look in her eyes. Although I don't have my divine power, my Chiwa still retains a part of my cultivation before I broke the contract. Just this cultivation alone is enough for me to ascend. Moreover, even though I don't have my divine power, I still have my godhead. My body is also a divine body that has been tempered by divine power. The impact of the flowing light won't hurt me at all. Lin Muyu was still in disbelief and looked at Ziyao. Ziyao pursed her lips and smiled. Don't worry, I will protect you when you ascend. There won't be any mistakes. A 99th stage Grotto Heaven God Emperor personally protecting you during your ascension isn't something an ordinary deity can enjoy. Thank you, big sister Ziyao. Lin Muyu nodded and said, however, we still have some unfinished business in the Shattered Cauldron realm. So, you have to wait for us for 3 days. After we have finished our business, we can ascend without any distractions. All right. Within 3 days, Lin Muyu went back and forth to solve all kinds of conflicts between the National Assembly, the Longdan Army Camp, and the Imperial Guards. She also temporarily appeased Zhuang Yan, Su Changjing, and the others. At least, Wei Chou, Feng Jixing, and the others would not dare to act rashly in the capital. At this time, the Longdan Army Camp had recovered to its original size of 100,000 people, and the Imperial Guards also had 80,000 people. In terms of combat power, they were far above the National Army. Now that the National Army was restless, it was already good enough that the Longdan Army Camp and the Imperial Guards didn't deal with them. Qin Yin personally commanded the martial arts practice in the Sacred Martial Palace. As the largest place to provide talents in the Empire, the Sacred Martial Palace couldn't be neglected. With the female empress personally teaching, the staff of the Sacred Martial Palace were naturally flattered and became more active. Tang Xiaoxi made a trip to the Forest of Infinity to meet Tang Zhen and Ling Huyen. She arranged the affairs of the National Army and the Demon Race Army for a year. This way, even if Tang Xiaoxi wasn't around, there wouldn't be any major problems in the Forest of Infinity. Within 3 days, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin were also invited by the Department of Weapons of the Ministry of Works to watch the first steam-powered car in operation. Early in the morning, the spring mist permeated the sky above Lanyan City. Amidst the sound of horse hooves, Lin Muyu and the others arrived at the spacious testing ground of the Department of Weapons. Even Shi Yan and Ziyao came. The officials of the Department of Weapons knelt on both sides and were extremely respectful. Xiling, are you ready? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Xiling was nearing middle age, but his forehead was full and his face glowed with health. The age when his career was at its peak was also his best years. He smiled smugly and said, yes, I'm ready. Marshal Lin, do you want to order them to drive over now? Yes. Qin Xiling nodded and raised his arm. Beat the drum. Dong dong dong. After 3 beats of the drum, a toot-toot-toot sound came from afar. A big guy appeared in the fog. It was a supersized steam-powered car. It didn't look like a car at all. It was almost as big as the giant elephant in the Forest of Dragons. 2 soldiers were constantly adding coal to the stove. Thick steam rose. The car's 4 huge wheels rolled over the ground. Its speed wasn't slow, at least 80 kilometers per hour. Is this the normal speed? Lin Muyu asked. Yes. Qin Xiling said, on flat ground it might be faster but not by much. The stove is not strong enough. Can this machine operate for a long time? It can. Qin Xiling said confidently, I've studied it with teacher Luo Jie. The material used to cast the steam engine is the precious 1,000-year black iron. It can withstand high temperature and is extremely tough. It won't be a problem even if it burns for a day and a night. Oh. Lin Muyu calculated quickly. At a speed of 80 kilometers per hour, it'll be 800 kilometers in 10 hours. In 24 hours, it'll be close to 2,000 kilometers. Excluding the bumpy roads along the way plus the slower speed after transporting the goods, it should be able to travel 1,000 kilometers a day. In 5 days we can deliver the goods from Lanyan City to Winterfrost City. Based on the speed we use to transport the military provisions with carriages, it'll take us at least a month to reach Winterfrost City. It's too fast. Qin Xiling smiled and said, that's right. However, there are still many difficulties. For example, we have to widen all the official roads in the Empire and build roads exclusively for steam-powered cars. In addition, we have to build coal stations along the way. Otherwise, the steam-powered cars will lose their power due to the lack of coal. All of these will require a lot of time and resources. I know. Just cooperate with the Ministry of Works Minister on this matter. Lin Muyu glanced around. The Ministry of Works minister not far away immediately cupped his fists and said, "Please rest assured, Lin General. I'll do my best to help Lord Qin Xiling complete all the tasks." "And that's good." Lin Muyu looked at the speeding car and could not help but say proudly, "How is it, Xiao Shiyan? Our mortal realm's motorcycles look very mighty, don't they?" Xiao pursed her lips into a smile and did not say anything. On the other hand, Shiyan narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, "Oh? I remember that a certain plane in the Western Divine Realm has already started to use a type of hover motorcycles. Some use electromagnetic motorcycles. There are even some planes that have developed technology to the point where warships can travel at hyperspace speed. In comparison, this steam-powered car that you guys developed, is indeed very ornamental. Feels like looking at an antique." Lin Muyu rubbed her nose angrily. "Why don't you take a look at what this plane was like before? It was an agricultural era, and now there is a steam-powered car. I can be considered to have pushed technology forward by 100 years. Then you still need to popularize electricity." Shiyin laughed softly. "Otherwise, if electronic technology does not develop, I'm afraid that they will still be stuck in the steam era for several hundred years. And that makes sense. What kind of nonsense is that?" Shiyin raised her beautiful eyebrows and said, "Do you think popularizing technology like this is really a good thing?" "Why not?" Shiyin said, "I have seen many planes with very advanced technology, but the physique and cultivation of humans are constantly deteriorating. They rely too much on technology, so much so that they neglect their own cultivation. Such planes are indeed very powerful against outsiders, but, if 10 great perfection realm god emperors appear at the same time, they can more or less destroy the entire plane. The gods of the divine realm are well versed in the technological level of each plane, but each plane knows nothing about the power of the gods. That is the reason why they are ruled." "Very reasonable." Lin Muyu nodded. "Perhaps what you said is very right, so this is also the biggest reason why Shattered Cauldron Realm needs Sister Shiyen to recover your power. Right now we really need a blazing angel to be our spokesperson. Only then will we not be afraid of the group of god emperors in the celestial pole continent. For the sake of this plane, you have really put in a lot of effort." "I have no choice. The previous emperor of this plane recognized me as his godson. One must finish what he started. I can't just pat my butt and not care about anything else after ascending. I can't do something like that. No wonder Sheen likes you so much." Qin. On the 4th day the appointed time arrived and everyone was about to ascend. Feng Jixing, Qin Yen, Situ Sen, Wei Chou, Chu Yao, Ouyang Yen, Chu Chu and the others were all present. After all, the few people who were ascending this time were really too important. Even Empress Qin had ascended together with them, so how could they not be worried? The most important thing was that no one knew what the primordial god realm was like. What if they couldn't return? Therefore Feng Jixing kept muttering in his heart, "What if Iu and Her Highness Ing don't come back? Should I just slip away and ascend or continue to fight with the celestial pole continent?" At the thought of fighting, Feng Jixing's scalp went numb. "Lin General, you have to come back soon," Wei Chou said. Situ Shui's eyes were red. "Sir, you and Her Highness must come back." Situ Sin pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, "Can't you let the marshal ascend with peace of mind?" "Lin General, don't worry. If you really can't come back, I will take care of Great Deacon Chu Yao, Ouyang Yen, Jin Xiaotang, and Lady Chanshan of 100 Flowers Tower. You won't have any worries." Immediately, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi shot burning gazes at Lin Muyu. "Who is Lady Chanshan?" Lin Muyu cried bitterly in her heart. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have followed Situ Sen and Wei Chio to the brothel. She hurriedly explained, "It's just a dancer, I didn't do anything, listen to me." "Explain my ass." The scene was chaotic, but Xiao coughed and controlled the situation. "Stop fooling around. The few of you think about ascending in your heart, then choose the heavenly gate that belongs to the Eastern Heaven Realm and fly in." Chapter 975. That's it. Of course. Let's begin. Lin Muyu closed her eyes and silently chanted, "Ascend." Suddenly, a mysterious force spread out in the sky. When Lin Muyu opened her eyes, she saw 4 dazzling golden gates above her head. The Western Divine Realm Heavenly Gate with angel wings, the Eastern Divine Realm Heavenly Gate with an ancient divine dragon circling around it, the Northern Divine Realm Gate guarded by a snow lion, and the Southern Divine Realm Gate guarded by a golden python totem. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's jaws dropped in shock. 4 gates appeared in the sky at the same time. This was simply too mysterious. Xiao moved her red lips and said, "That's right. The gate with the ancient divine dragon circling around it is the Eastern Divine Realm. It's also the place we're going to. Send your telekinesis into the Eastern Divine Gate and there will naturally be divine power guiding you to ascend into the realm of the gods." Okay. Lin Muyu responded and sent her telekinesis into the Eastern Divine Gate. As expected, the golden light of the heavenly gate became even more dazzling. Beams of divine power transformed into ancient golden characters that descended from the sky and circled around Lin Muyu. They guided his body to ascend straight towards the heavenly gate. At the same time, Sanskrit chants sounded in his ears, as if an ancient prophecy was repeatedly echoing. A comfortable feeling surged into his body. Lin Muyu didn't forget to take a look and saw that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were flying towards the Eastern Divine Gate at the same time. As for Shi Yin, she was holding onto the Qihua sword and slowly releasing her divine power. She quickly followed. As for Xiao, her escort, she floated over. She was really too familiar with this path of ascension. Looking up, the heavenly gate was completely open. Huge golden seals appeared on both sides of the gate. Each seal represented the name of a god. Countless seals extended into the distance. "Exalted God, your name." An ancient voice sounded. Lin Muyu replied without thinking, "Lin Muyu?" With a schwa sound, a small amount of divine power in his body turned into a ray of light and shot into the distance. In the distance there was a stone pillar that soared into the sky. It was the divine stone of the Eastern Heaven Realm. At this moment, the name of Lin Muyu in the divine book slowly appeared on the divine stone. It was a name that was used to compile books. The 3 words Lin Muyu were clear and powerful, making people secretly exclaim in admiration. Just as the name appeared on the divine stone, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth transformed into beams of light that shot straight into Lin Muyu's body. He immediately let out a whimper. What powerful energy from the divine world! No wonder everyone in the world wanted to ascend. This is the blessing of East Heaven. Every ascended god who enters the divine world will receive a portion of the blessing that belongs to them. Enjoy this blessing. Xiao chuckled. Not only Lin Muyu, but even Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also closed their eyes and enjoyed the blessings of the divine power of heaven and earth. The tide of God in her body kept surging. In less than 30 minutes, the strength of the divine power in Lin Muyu's body had increased by at least 10%. The tide of God surged continuously and broke through 2 hidden entrances, reaching the 55th grotto heaven level. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin, on the other hand, had advanced to the 47th and 57th grotto heaven level respectively. On the other hand, under the impact of the divine power, Shi Yin spread out the 6 wings of the blazing angel behind her back. Her cultivation suddenly entered the 36th divine king realm. However, this kind of power disappeared like a flash in the pan. Under the restriction of the divine pact, all her cultivation quickly flowed away and the divine power in her body returned to 0. She still looked like a mortal. She seemed to have expected this and smiled helplessly. As expected, it's still the same. The 4 of them stepped on the void and surrounded the Eastern Heaven Realm divine stone. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked around in surprise. The divine world's spiritual mountains surrounding the Eastern Heaven Realm divine stone were like celestial mountains connected by iron chains in the sky. Auspicious clouds covered the sky and from time to time, immortals flew and shuttled back and forth, chasing after the stars and the moon. It was very comfortable. Xiao said, "Shi Yin, this is the border of the East Heaven and still belongs to the 3 realms. Therefore you can't gather your divine power. However, after entering the ancient desolate god realm, it will be different. After you enter the ancient desolate god realm, every drop of your cultivation will be preserved and will not be taken by the divine pact." At this moment, white clouds appeared behind them and figures appeared in the clouds. Banners fluttered in the wind and they looked very dignified. Xiao couldn't help but smile. "The demon emperor is here to welcome us." Lin Muyu and Qin Yin smiled at the same time and turned around. Surrounded by the crowd, the 7 luminaries demon emperor descended from the sky on a violent flame cloud. He opened his arms and laughed. You brat, you are finally willing to ascend. I have been waiting for you for a long time." Behind him, thousands of gods from the Eastern Heaven Realm knelt in the air. "Greetings, demon emperor." Awe-inspiring, too domineering. Lin Muyu squinted while staring at the fiery cloud under the 7 brilliance demon monarch's feet and said, "How much fire god force does it take to form this fiery cloud? It's obvious that you're flying with your own strength instead of relying on the fiery cloud." Brother Demon Monarch, it has been so many years, yet you're still so focused on your appearance. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's face darkened. Brat, Lin Ruoji, you want to quarrel with me the moment we meet? Do you want to fight? Come on. Lin Muyu pulled out the Shenyuan sword and a light flashed into the blade. With a buzz, starlight burst into the sky and shot towards the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor seemed to have expected this. He swung the Pangu axe horizontally and waved the one bright life flurry. Bang! Heaven and earth lost color. After the 2 divine weapons collided, they collapsed backwards. Lin Muyu took the opportunity to return the Shenyuan sword to its sheath. The gods were shocked. What kind of tradition was it to fight as soon as they met? Wasn't it said that the person who ascended this time was the brother of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor? Why did they fight as soon as they met? However, in the next moment, Lin Muyu and the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had already clenched their fists and laughed. How are you in the mortal realm? I'm not dead. Big brother, how are you in the heaven realm? Look at my ostentatious appearance. How is it? There are more than 20,000 clergymen in East Heaven. Among them there are more than 3,000 young goddesses. Most of them are in the southern border. When are we going to? Cough cough. Qinin coughed. Tang Xiaoxi also looked angry. Lin Muyu looked up at him. Do you want me to die? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor smiled awkwardly. I didn't expect you to bring your own. Then we'll talk about it later. Anyway, there's still a long way to go. Said you. Since you have ascended to become a member of my East Heaven realm, what kind of position do you want? You also have 2 sisters-in-law. Just tell me what kind of position you want. Oh, by the way, my old friend, Lord Blazing Angel Shiyan, you can also ask for a position. The corner of Shiyan's mouth rose. I don't want to be a blazing angel. Why would I be greedy for a position in the divine realm? However, Lin Muyu didn't refuse. He knew that power and position might not be very important, but having power and position meant that no one would dare to bully you. So he asked, what position is more important? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was speechless. Sun Feng, take the Eastern Divine Realms roster and see what the highest position is. Yes. A golden scroll appeared in Sun Feng's hand. With a swoosh, countless names turned into golden light and flew up. He carefully looked at it and said, Your Majesty, Demon Emperor. Ever since Your Majesty removed the position of Left Marshal Lu Huan because of the Battle of Qingba, it has been vacant. Left Marshal Lu Huan is in charge of 8,000 gods, 3,000 planes and 96,000 galaxies. This is currently the highest vacant position. Left Marshal Lu Huan? Lin Muyu narrowed his eyes. Is it powerful? Powerful. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor lowered his voice and said, Do you know what it means to be in charge of 3,000 planes? This means that 3,000 worlds are your private fiefdom. Each world has hundreds of millions of people. Among these hundreds of millions of people, 50 million are women. Among them there are about 10 million women aged 16 to 26. Among them there are 1 in 10,000 beauties. And in the 3,000 planes, there are 3 million beauties who are 1 in 10,000. 3 million. Just imagine. Lin Muyu was a little stunned. Damn, just imagining it makes me so excited. That's right. Big brother didn't mistreat you, right, weak chicken? No, not bad, ha. At this time, Xiao and Qinin shouted in different directions. Demon Emperor. Big brother you. Instantly, the 2 men who were living in a dream woke up. Xiao said lightly, It's better to go to the ancient divine realm as soon as possible. Otherwise, these 2 people will have trouble staying together. Qinin nodded approvingly. And I agree. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor turned around and smiled. Sister-in-law Xiaoyin, listen to my explanation. Don't explain, it's too weak. Don't be angry. How can you and I be that kind of people? At the side, Sun Feng said respectfully, Demon Emperor, the carefully selected 50 young goddesses from the southern border have been sent to the main hall. Demon Emperor you. Xiao's eyes were burning. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor coughed and said, Men, send these goddesses back. It's just a misunderstanding. Where's the clerk? Remove Sun Feng from his position as the marshal and confiscate his seal. Sun Feng was at a loss. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were afraid that if they stayed in East Heaven for another day, Lin Muyu would be led astray. Therefore they decided to leave the Heaven Realm the next day and go to the ancient Wild Secret Realm to train. That night, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor held a banquet to entertain the newly promoted gods of East Heaven Realm. Lin Muyu had the sovereign personality, Qin Yin had the main god personality, Tang Xiaoxi was a demon god, and Shi Yan was a blazing angel. None of them could be compared to ordinary gods. The arrival of the four of them was not only good friends who had not met for a long time, but also greatly enriched the power of East Heaven Realm. In addition to Lin Muyu being appointed as the Marshal of the Left Army, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were also rewarded with hundreds of planes each. Shi Yan refused the reward, so it was fine. The next morning she woke up early. This was Lin Muyu's first morning in the divine world. Stretching her arms, she walked out of the simple and unadorned palace. In the distance, the rising sun broke through the vault of heaven. Colorful lights and clouds rose into the sky. The beautiful scenery was breathtaking. The heaven realm was the heaven realm after all. Even the scenery was not comparable to the mortal world. Chapter 976. The East Emperor Palace was the most majestic building in the Eastern Heaven Realm. The entire East Emperor Palace stretched for more than 30 miles and was the residence of the Eastern God Kings. After the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor ruled the Eastern Heaven, the entire East Emperor Palace was almost in ruins. The War of the Gods turned the towering palaces into rubble. Only less than a quarter of the East Emperor Palace was preserved. However, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor did not live in it. Instead, he conferred it to Ziyao as a bedchamber. In the Imperial Garden behind the East Emperor Palace, the warm morning sun shone on the jungle. There were not many gods who came to send off Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others. There were only the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Ziyao, Sun Feng, and a few other important figures in the Eastern Heaven Realm. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, dressed in a light purple robe, said in a low voice, You must be careful when you go there. The world in the space crack is called the Wild Land of the Divine Realm by us. It is also called the Secret Land of the Divine Realm. For tens of thousands of years, it has been regarded as a forbidden area in the Divine Realm. There are great dangers lurking in the Secret Land of the Divine Realm. Even Ziyao has only explored less than 1/10 of the area. You must be extra careful. Will there be fatal threats? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor answered directly, Yes, one careless mistake and you may never come back. I originally planned to let Ziyao accompany you there, but Ziyao thinks that this will be an obstacle to your training. Real breakthroughs and improvements in strength are between life and death. How far you can cultivate in the secret land of the divine realm is entirely up to you. In addition, there is one more thing I want to tell you. Say it, big brother. There are many lost treasures in the secret land of the divine realm. Even divine weapons like the Shenyuan sword and Pangu axe were found in the secret land of the divine realm. The 4 of you may be able to find what you want in the secret land. In short, be careful. Qin Yin's eyes were faint as she said, Sister Ziyao has entered the secret land. Can you tell us something about it? Perhaps this will give us more confidence. Ziyao nodded. Even though I've only explored a small part of the wild god realm, I still have some understanding of it. First of all, you need to be wary of the forgotten ones in the secret realm. The Forsaken One? That's right. Ziyao nodded and said, that was a group of ancient gods. They were originally under the rule of God Emperor Fuxi. However, in a war many years ago, these ancient gods were left behind in the Arcana realm. They never found their way back, so they survived in the Arcana realm. Their names gradually disappeared from the divine book of the Eastern God realm and became a group of forgotten fierce gods. Be careful of them. For tens of thousands of years, they have survived by killing each other and stealing godheads. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Yes, I remember. What else? Beware of the night marauders. Raiders? Yes, they are a group of strange beasts similar to ancient demonic beasts. There are countless of them and they are very strong. They can break through the walls of the god realm. They only appear at night, some can fly while others can't. They are extremely fast and even gods can't see them with their naked eyes. In ancient times they were called sky huts. Their bodies are black and their arms and mouths have sharp blades that can pierce through the walls of the god realm. You must be careful. Let me give you a piece of advice. In the god realm, don't come out at night. Find a cave to hide in. Sister Ziyao, you've also encountered these sky huts. Tang Xiaoxi asked. Yes, I hid in a cave in a snowy region for a day and a night before I managed to escape. There were over 10,000 sky huts hunting me down. It was impossible to kill them all. Ziyao smiled and said, Once you enter the Arcana realm, don't think of yourself as a god. The creatures that can survive in the ancient Arcana realm are all stronger than gods. What's so good about the Arcana realm? Lin Muyu asked. Xiao smiled. The spirit energy density in the Arcana realm is 11 times that of the Heaven realm and 50 times that of the Broken Cauldron realm. Cultivating in the Arcana realm will yield twice the results with half the effort. Moreover, the gravity in the Arcana realm is 7 times that of the Broken Cauldron realm. In other words, you will have to endure 7 times the weight of your body. This will greatly increase your speed. As she spoke, Xiao continued, there is another special feature of the Arcana realm. Food is scarce. Most of the food you can find is spirit fruits and strange beasts. However, these two are treasures condensed from the essence of heaven and earth. After eating them, your cultivation will greatly increase. Also, be careful of windsaws when flying in the Arcana realm. Windsaws? Lin Muyu was stunned. Yes, it's a type of wind condensed from dimensional energy. You must avoid it if you encounter it. The power of the windsaws is extremely strong and can break through the walls of the God realm. Moreover, the windsaws are invisible and invisible. You can't rely on your eyes. You can only rely on your spirit sense to sense the fluctuations of the dimensional energy. Got it? Lin Muyu smiled and said, all right, is there anything else you want to say? If not, let's prepare to set off. We have to set off as soon as possible and return as soon as possible. Yes. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi nodded together. There were still a lot of things waiting to be done in the Broken Cauldron realm. If they could step into the God Emperor realm earlier and return, it would be time to take control of the overall situation. Xiao didn't say anything. She just spread her hands and condensed a huge northern heavenly wheel. The sparkling and translucent ruler slid continuously. If you're ready, I'll send you over. Xiao smiled faintly, don't be anxious. Cultivate slowly. 10 years inside is equivalent to 1 year in the Broken Cauldron realm and the God realm. However, you must be careful. After entering the Arcana realm, you will appear in the sky. Remember, you must be careful of those invisible windsaws. I almost lost my life to them. Yes. Lin Muyu held Tang Xiaoxi's and Qin Yin's hands and stood in the open woodland filled with grass. Qin Yin held onto Shi Yan's arm. The few of them were already prepared. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said in a deep voice, You must cultivate carefully and come back alive. Swoosh 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 swoosh, 4 beams of light soared into the sky and disappeared into the forest. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor couldn't help but turn around and stare at Xiao. You didn't even let me finish speaking before sending them off. How rude. The corner of Xiao's mouth rose slightly. I still can't completely control the power of the northern heavenly wheel. Also, were you yelling at me just now? No, I was just asking. Swoosh swoosh, flowing light shuttles appeared on both sides. The 4 of them traveled through the flowing light tunnel as soon as their feet touched the ground. Under the impact of the powerful energy, everyone couldn't help but close their eyes and couldn't look at it anymore. Only Qin Yin could maintain her eyes of blazing light open, but it was also very difficult. After traveling for a full 10 minutes, it was obvious how far this secret territory was. Hua! Suddenly, the 4 of them appeared in the sky as if they had passed through a wall. The sky was already blue with white clouds. It was a peaceful scene, and the soles of their feet automatically generated energy to support their flight. Lin Muyu opened her eyes and looked down at the ground. This was a dense forest area. There were mountains in the distance and it felt like they were facing a stone forest. However, the stone forest in front of them was hundreds of times larger. Stone pillars soared into the sky, as if they were the giants that supported the power between heaven and earth. Roars of wild beasts could be heard in the forest. From the sound, one could tell that they weren't kind. We have just arrived, so we can't stay in the air for too long. After we land, let's familiarize ourselves with the terrain first, Lin Muyu said softly. The 3 beauties nodded together. Unknowingly, Lin Muyu had already taken on the role of the team leader of this secret territory cultivation team. Moreover, the purpose of this trip was very clear, and that was to improve their cultivation. It would be best if they could reach the great perfection divine the Arch realm. By then, they could return to the Shattered Cauldron realm and dominate the world. Behind them, a huge black bird followed at a distance. When it spread its wings, it was about 5 meters long. Its pair of black eyes were filled with the greed and ruthlessness of a predator. Is it a rock? Tang Xiaoxi asked suspiciously, will it attack us? Probably not. Lin Muyu said, it is also testing our strength. Obviously, this rock's strength isn't enough to kill the 4 of us at once. Let's fly down first. Qin Yin hugged Shi Yan and supported her strength. The 4 of them slowly flew down. However, halfway through the flight, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense suddenly sensed a power fluctuation in the air, followed by an almost imperceptible dimensional explosion. He hurriedly said softly, "Be careful, it's a wind saw. Move with me." He suddenly raised his palm and pulled Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Shi Yan up by nearly 3 meters. With a swoosh, the wind saw swept past, and the image of a huge blood-red blade appeared. It was 100 meters long, just like a huge saw. It suddenly appeared and disappeared. No wonder it was called wind saw. The rock behind him let out a loud squawk. It flapped its wings and spun rapidly in the air, barely dodging the giant wind saw's natural attack. This rock had lived for at least 10,000 years. As a survivor of the arcane realm, its defense against the wind saw was probably far above that of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others. Tang Xiaoxi looked back and was secretly shocked. As expected, they are not simple. Careful, there is another one. Lin Muyu used her falling star step again and brought the 3 girls along with her for almost 10 meters. Their original position in the air had been completely separated by a wind saw. Shi Yan couldn't help but smile. This place is interesting. She doesn't have any cultivation, but she is so calm in the face of danger. This is probably the power of the mind. Lin Muyu quickly brought everyone to the ground. It was extremely dangerous in the air. If it wasn't for the fact that she had cultivated the spiritual pulse technique and was extremely sensitive to energy fluctuations, it would have been very difficult for her to dodge the 2 consecutive wind saws. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Only after his feet touched the ground did he feel a sense of security. The forest was filled with trees that he couldn't name. Some of the trees were grotesquely shaped and comical. Not far away there was a tree that was only half a meter tall. Its shape was rather inelegant. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also noticed it. "Xiaoyin, look at that tree, it looks like..." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly stopped. Qin Yin giggled, but she was too embarrassed to say anything. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, took a careful look and said, "It looks like a butt, right?" "Yeah." Lin Muyu walked up and looked at it. She said, "What's even stranger is that there is a small red fruit in the center of the butt. It looks like a small strawberry." "What is this?" "Sister Xian, you are very knowledgeable. Come take a look." Xian walked up and carefully observed the fruit growing from the butt tree. Her eyes suddenly lit up. "How is this a strawberry? This is a very rare spirit fruit." Chapter 977. Spirit Fruit. Lin Muyu smiled. "The fruit from this butt tree is definitely not delicious." "Is that so?" Shi Yan was speechless. "Then what if I told you that this isn't a butt tree but a peacefulness tree, and this spirit fruit is called a peacefulness berry? Eating one can increase your spirit energy for a month. Would you still think this fruit is not delicious?" "1 a month?" Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Qin Yin giggled. That's great, that's great. In other words, eating this fruit will speed up your cultivation, right, Sister Hyan?" "That's about right, but you can't eat too much. You can only eat 1 a day at most. Otherwise it's useless." Lin Muyu was excited. She counted and said, "There are about 20 peacefulness berries on this peacefulness tree. It's enough for the 4 of us to eat for a week. I'll pick it." "Wait." Shi Yan hurriedly called out and said, "Idiot you, this kind of peacefulness berry can't be picked normally. Once the fruit is separated from the branches and leaves, it will lose all its spirit energy in a few seconds. The way to pick this spirit fruit is to cut off the bark together. When you need to eat it, you just need to bite off one and eat it." "So particular." Lin Muyu carefully pulled out a little demonic noise knife from her waist and peeled off the bark along with a peacefulness berry. Then she handed it to Qin Yin. "Here, Xiaoyin, eat one first." Qin Yin was a little uneasy. "Should I eat first?" Shi Yan and Tang Xiaoxi both smiled. "Eat, eat." Shi Yan added, "Each of us will take one, and at this time tomorrow we will take another one. In this way we can maintain our physical strength and divine power." Qin Yin gently bit a peacefulness berry and couldn't help but frown. She smiled. "It's so sour." When Shi Yan and Tang Xiaoxi each ate one, Lin Muyu also leaned close to the bark and chewed one. Sure enough, it was very sour, but the moment it entered her throat, there was a refreshing taste. When it fell into her stomach, the spiritual power in the peacefulness berry began to volatilize, and spiritual power gushed into her meridians like a spring. It was really a good treasure. This kind of peacefulness berry could increase one's cultivation and also increase the recovery speed of the consumer's divine power. It was even better than what Shi Yan said. Lin Muyu carefully hid the rest of the Ningxin berries in her Qingkuan pouch, then pulled out her Xinyuan sword and started digging around the butt tree. What are you doing? Xian was shocked. Lin Muyu said, I'm digging it up and transplanting it. This peacefulness berry is so good. If we dig it up and bring it back to Shattered Cauldron Realm or God Realm, we can mass produce it after planting it. How great would that be? Black lines appeared on Xian's forehead. You should change your upstart mindset. Let me tell you bluntly, the peacefulness berry needs to bloom and bear fruit in a place with very strong spiritual power. Moreover, it only blooms once in 100 years and bears fruit in another 100 years. After we pick the fruit this time, it will take 200 years before it bears fruit again. Can you wait 200 years? I don't think so. Lin Muyu gave up on the idea of transplanting it and said, let's search a bit more, maybe there are other spirit fruits. Xian burst into laughter. You're thinking too much. We're lucky to have encountered this peacefulness berry. Although there are spirit fruits in the secret realm, they're not planted. They're crystallized from the spirit energy of heaven and earth. Moreover, most of the spirit fruits have already been eaten by wild beasts or cultivators here. We wouldn't be that lucky. Lin Muyu had already walked dozens of steps forward. She pointed at a big tree in front of them and said, Sister Xian, look, is that thing that looks like a banana a spirit fruit? Xian was stunned. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? This is a devil palm banana. Lin Muyu chuckled. I've only heard of the devil palm banana. I've never heard of the devil palm banana. Xian said, the devil palm banana is a kind of natural spirit fruit of the law of fire. After eating it, it can greatly increase the consumer's control and endurance of the law of fire. Even if a mortal eats it, it can also greatly increase their resistance and endurance of the law of fire. Therefore, in the mortal realm, there are some mortals in some planes who eat the devil palm banana by mistake. They're not natural espers, but they've received the benefits of the devil palm banana. As long as they cultivate well, even eating a devil palm banana can be considered a pretty good cultivator of the law of fire. Is that powerful? Lin Muyu was stunned. Xian nodded. I remember there's a plane under the control of the Western Divine Realm. There, the price of a devil palm banana has already been raised to 300 trox. Only 300? That's not much. Lin Muyu said. Xian was speechless. In that plane, 1 trox can buy a 3-story courtyard, plus 10 maids and 3 big-tailed dogs. What do you think? Lin Muyu's heart surged. So we're rich? Rich your head. Qinin couldn't help but laugh. These devil palm bananas are all for Xiaoxi. Maybe they can help Xiaoxi evolve her divine spark into the overgod spark. Compared to the wealth of the mortal world, Xiaoxi's overgod spark is more important. Xian raised the corner of her mouth and said, if she really refines the overgod spark, then she can be considered as a ruler. Don't tell me you've never thought of unifying the heaven realm? This heaven realm is divided into 4 major star fields. There are years of war and chaos and it's long been exhausted. If we can unify it and there are no wars, that would be great. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and asked, Sister Xian thinks we have the ability to unify the heaven realm. Why not? Xian giggled and said, don't forget, your divine spark is the same as the 7 luminaries demon emperor, it is also a sovereign spark. Moreover, you are still advancing so quickly with the sovereign spark. This means that your talent is above that of the demon emperor. As long as you are willing, your future achievements will definitely be above that of the demon emperor. If the demon emperor can unify the East Heaven, then you can unify the entire heaven realm and become a true king of gods. Lin Muyu smiled brightly and suddenly held Qinin and Tang Xiaoxi's hands, saying, I don't want to be some king of gods. I want to bring my 2 beautiful wives home and show them to my father. Then, I will spend a lot of money to open a world-class bar and bring Xiaoyin and Xiaoxi to drink every day for fun. Then, the company will hire a dozen god emperors as bodyguards. If anyone dares to cause trouble for me, Xiaoyin and Xiaoxi, I will let these god emperors beat them up until they can't take care of themselves. Is this what you want? Xian looked at him with her mouth wide open. On the other hand, Qinin and Tang Xiaoxi were so happy they could die. Actually, what women wanted was very simple. As long as the person they loved was by their side and they were in their heart, that was enough. Xian squinted her beautiful eyes. It would be great if that was the case. Can you guarantee that when you meet a more beautiful woman in the future, you will always be loyal to Xin and Xiaoxi? Lin Muyu shook her head. No, I don't believe that there is anyone more righteous than Xiaoyin and Xiaoxi in this world. What if there is? Then I will capture them and present them to Big Brother Feng Jixing. As a sister-in-law, she won't have any other thoughts. Yo! Shi Yan walked over with a smile, her tall and slender body sticking to Lin Muyu's shoulder. She looked at him deeply and said, "Isn't there a saying in your hometown, nothing is better than dumplings, nothing is better than playing with dumplings?" Lin Muyu's face turned pale. "You know too much." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi asked, "What's more fun?" Lin Muyu didn't know how to answer, so she turned around to pick the devil's palm banana. After peeling one, she handed it to Tang Xiaoxi's mouth. "Xiaoxi, come, eat the banana." Tang Xiaoxi didn't know what to do, so she opened her mouth blankly and took a bite. Lin Muyu's face turned red. Qin Yin looked at him speechlessly. She had no idea what he was thinking. About 50 meters ahead, there was another tree in front of them, and this time there were more than 40 fruits. This was really a little shocking. Happiness came too suddenly. After Lin Muyu cut the spiritual fruit, Shi Yan raised her hand and said, Let's get out of here quickly." "Why, there are so many spiritual fruits." "You idiot, so many spiritual fruits live so densely together, but there isn't even a beast that eats them. What does this mean? Have you forgotten the 2 consecutive wind saws we took in the air? This means that we are in the plantation of some powerhouse. These spiritual fruits are grown by him, and the 2 wind saws are obstacles he set up in the sky with some method." Shi Yan suddenly became nervous and said, "To be able to grow so many spiritual fruits in the primordial mystic realm, he must have eaten spiritual fruits for tens of thousands of years. His cultivation must be at least 90 grotto heaven great perfection immortal state. Let's go. If we're discovered, we'll definitely die." "So we've become thieves?" Lin Muyu put away the spiritual fruits and said, "Then let's go." With that, she held Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hands and hurried away. If Shi Yan's cultivation was still there, then it wouldn't be a problem. She could eat all their fruits, burn down their spiritual orchard, and do all sorts of evil things. But Shi Yan didn't have any cultivation, so they could only rely on Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi to fight. Any 90 grotto heaven god emperor would be hard to deal with, so it was better to escape. However, after the 4 of them ran for nearly 10 li, Shi Yan was still frowning and said anxiously, "I keep feeling like something is following us." "That's right, something is following us." Lin Muyu pointed in the direction of the spiritual orchard and said, "Look, that thing is following us." Sure enough, a grayish-red figure came out of the forest. It was a hungry wolf, but it wasn't an ordinary wolf, it was a wolf with the power of the god state. Its head was densely covered with golden lines, and there were at least 30 of them. Lin Muyu's scalp went numb. "This is bad, this is a beast that has lived for at least 30,000 years, even the saliva that flows from its mouth is the saliva of the gods." Qin Yin squinted her eyes and smiled. "Big brother that's enough. Be serious, we don't know how to deal with this wolf." Shi Yan said, "This wolf should be a pet of the owner of the spiritual orchard, it's not a good one. We can't hide from it, the only way is to kill it. A 30,000-year-old spiritual beast's meat must be delicious, we just happen to have no food and it's getting dark." Lin Muyu slowly unsheathed the Shenyuan sword and said, "Leave it to me." "No." Shi Yan shook her head. "Actually, with your strength and the divine weapon, you are already the strongest among the 4 of us. Let Xin take care of this wolf, and you can't use the flaming eyes. Kill it with the 7 slashes." Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. "Let Xiao Yin do it alone?" "Yes." Shi Yan smiled and nodded. "Did you forget the purpose of our trip? If Xin can't take care of a beast by himself, how can he improve in the future?" "Yes, I'll go." Qin Yin smiled and unsheathed the star sword. Chapter 978. The secret realm was full of divine beasts. Although this wolf looked ferocious and ugly, it belonged to the ranks of divine beasts. In terms of strength, ordinary ultimate gods and divine kings might not be its match at all. Since it was the pet of the owner of the spiritual orchard, most of its food must be treasures such as spiritual fruits. At that moment, the holy wolf's body was enshrouded in flames as it slowly walked over. It had already discovered that the few people standing on the hill were the thieves who stole the spiritual fruits. Roar! It raised its head and roared. The grassland around the holy wolf was quickly swept by a shockwave as a flame divine power rippled out. Sure enough, the power of a divine beast was extraordinary. "Perhaps it would be better for Xiao Yin to use the eyes of blazing light," said Lin Muyu. Shi Yan shook her head. "No, using the eyes of blazing light to deal with such an opponent would make the eyes of blazing light too cheap. Xin, go. If you can't beat it, you and Xiaoxi will save you." "Okay." Qin Yin floated down with a long sword in her hand and confronted the holy wolf 10 meters away. Her flowing cloud dress fluttered in the wind. She was indescribably beautiful. She kept her eyes closed as she used her spiritual sense to capture the holy wolf's position and attack angle. Clap. Clap. The holy wolf's front paws slowly scratched the ground as a pair of red eyes stared at the delicious meal in front of it. Suddenly, it launched an attack as its figure attacked like lightning. On the hill, Xian said, "Dripping stone, grasping wind and catching shadow, lower your center of gravity, split, stab." Qin Yin's body suddenly took a few steps back as her long sword turned into a series of light shadows and instantly split apart. She was almost kneeling on the ground while maintaining her center of gravity. At the same time, her long sword stabbed out. Suddenly, the sky was filled with phantom-like blades of the stellar sword. Roar! The holy wolf waved its claws in the air as it crazily scratched and bit. Each claw turned into divine power and bombarded the splitting sword. In the blink of an eye, the holy wolf smashed countless sword shadows. Its sharp claws raised high and fell on Qin Yin's fragrant shoulder. Such powerful divine power. Lin Muyu sighed inwardly. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes widened. "Be careful, Xiaoyin." Xian whispered, "Disperse the light, dodge." Light splitting was one of the battle techniques of the law of light in the Western divine realm. Every participant in the Chosen of God trial had trained in it. Qin Yin's figure seemed to be standing in the same place, but in the next moment, a figure separated and appeared several meters away. The holy wolf's sharp claws only killed a temporary illusion that Qin Yin left in the same place. "In the air, gather power, judge." Xian continued. Almost as soon as she finished speaking, Qin Yin's delicate body had already risen from the ground. Her long sword was high up in the air, radiating a dazzling radiance. The sword light expanded by dozens of meters, and it slashed heavily at the back of the holy wolf, who had missed its target. Awu! The holy wolf seemed to be aware of the approaching crisis. It roared, and all the hair on its back stood up, like steel needles forming a shield-like defense. With a clang, it collided with the power of judgment. Suddenly, Qin Yin's arm felt a vast rebound force, and she was involuntarily sent flying. The holy wolf also whimpered and took several steps back. Brr. A stream of blood flowed down from its back, but to a wild beast, this kind of injury could stimulate its bloodthirsty nature even more. Its sharp claws scratched the ground, causing the ground to tremble and show signs of splitting apart. Cracks appeared on the grass, and not only that, flames rose into the sky along with its movements. "It's going to get serious," Lin Muyu said. Qin Yin frowned slightly. "Sister Haiyan, I won't hide it from you. The third strike of the 7 slashes is too destructive, and I haven't fully mastered it. Once I use it, not only will my opponent die but I will also suffer from the power backlash. Just give it a try." Okay. Qin Yin gripped the long sword with both hands as her body trembled slightly. She quickly poured her energy into the blade, and the pure light divine energy from her overgod spark caused the star's sword to hum. The light saint energy continued to gather, and in the end, it formed a scorching white flame around the blade. This was the purest form of light energy, white flame. The holy wolf rushed forward, waved its claws and attacked Qin Yin with a shocking momentum. The moment Qin Yin raised her hand, the white flame had already swept out, turning the surrounding grass into ashes. The biting cold sword light slashed down on the wolf's head. Bang! The saint wolf howled miserably. Part of its skull seemed to have been shattered, and its flesh and blood splattered everywhere. However, it still waved its sharp claws and scratched at Qin Yin's shoulders and chest, leaving traces of flames. Very soon, cracks appeared on Qin Yin's divine wall. The flames swept in, and the delicate skin on her shoulders was evaporated, revealing her alluring snow-white shoulders, as well as many frightening traces. The power of destruction was too strong, and it continued to sweep out, almost disintegrating the holy wolf's body. At the same time, the white flame began to withdraw, which would also cause a strong backlash to Qin Yin's body. "The fourth strike, pity?" Xian shouted. "But I haven't mastered the fourth strike." Qin Yin was shocked. "I told you to use it, so use it, don't hesitate." Qin Yin immediately shouted, gathering all the strength in her body and retracted the blade. Suddenly, a gentle force surged around, and Qin Yin stood there proudly, like a war goddess at the end of the world. A magical scene happened. The surrounding grassland that was originally burned to ashes quickly sprouted green, and even the injury on Qin Yin's shoulder began to recover. What was even more exaggerated was that the holy wolf's body that had been disintegrated also recovered by half. Although it couldn't be resurrected, it seemed as if time had been reversed. At this moment, the domain filled the entire space and no one could attack Qinin at all, as if they were controlled by some kind of law. The fourth strike of Shi Yan's 7 chops was not the main attack, but a defensive move. I did it? Qinin opened her flaming eyes, and looked back at the 3 people on the hill in surprise. Shi Yan smiled in satisfaction and nodded. I think during the Chosen One trial, Li Fei already taught you that the true power of light is a kind of destruction, and mortals can't peek at it. But she definitely didn't teach you that light is also a kind of rebirth, a kind of power that can resist all things. The third strike of Shi Yan's 7 chops, destruction, and the fourth strike, pity, were originally the same move, but I separated them. The fourth strike is the end of the third strike, and is also a perfect defensive method for self-protection. As she said this, Shi Yan said softly, in the Gods' War 3 months ago, I relied on this move to avoid the fatal attack of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. If it wasn't for pity, I'm afraid I would have been turned into ashes by now. Qinin smiled lightly. Thank you, Sister Haiyan, for your teachings. I finally mastered the third and fourth strikes perfectly. Is this the purpose of our trip? Then? Lin Muyu stared at the Saint Wolf's corpse. Then tonight's dinner has appeared. Wolf meat, how about it? Okay. Since he had already killed it, eating the Saint Wolf shouldn't be a problem. Furthermore, he hadn't seen a single wild rabbit, deer, or wild boar after running for 5 kilometers. It looked like it was just as Ziyao had said. Food was the most difficult problem to solve in the primordial dungeon. It was rare that he had been lucky enough to kill the Saint Wolf. He couldn't let it go to waste. Lin Muyu jumped down the hill and grabbed the Saint Wolf's corpse. First, she pulled out a small magic noise blade and dug out a spirit stone. Sure enough, just like the one in the Shattered Cauldron realm, this Saint Wolf had nurtured a spirit stone that was over 32,000 years old. It was a good thing, and after refining it, it could increase one's cultivation by quite a bit. Shi Yan looked into the distance. Let's go, we can't wait for the owner of the spirit orchard to find us, that'll be troublesome. Can any of you tell the direction? I can. Lin Muyu touched the communication device Lulu gave her and called out from afar. Lulu, are you still there? A barely audible voice came into her ear. I'm here, big brother. Why did you run to such a remote space? Your signal? I can barely catch it. Then don't say too much. Help me confirm the direction. Straight ahead of you is north. Okay, thank you, Lulu. Lin Muyu pointed ahead. North? Shi Yan said happily, that's for the best. Ziyao also said that this is the north of the God realm, so let's continue north and try to avoid the owner of the spirit orchard. In the dense forest, the 4 of them ran as if they were flying, but just as Shi Yan said, they didn't encounter any trees with spirit fruits along the way, but they did see a fierce tiger and a python along the way. They were strong, but they didn't provoke them in order to hurry. By dusk, they had already run for nearly 100 miles, and the sky was about to turn dark. Lin Muyu was more concerned about letting Shi Yan circulate her mental cultivation method in such an environment with such abundant spirit energy. Rushing all the way wasn't effective, and the gravity in the secret realm was 7 times that of Shattered Cauldron realm. Running for 50 miles was almost Shi Yan's limit. Lin Muyu glanced over and sure enough, Shi Yan's forehead was covered in sweat. A great blazing angel couldn't even withstand such intense running. In order to destroy the divine agreement, Shi Yan had paid too much. Find a place to stay at night? Lin Muyu said. Qinin was the first to agree, and she also noticed that Shi Yan's breathing was getting heavier. In the dense forest, a triangular cave entrance was faintly discernible. When Lin Muyu used her long sword to cut the thorns, the entire shape of the cave appeared. This location was not bad and there were towering trees around it. Even if they started a fire here, it wouldn't be easy to be discovered. The mountain is high and we can look down from above. The cave is low and it's not easy to find. Even if we are seen, we can escape at any time, and we don't have to be afraid of being surrounded. The terrain is easy to defend and hard to attack, Lin Muyu said confidently. Qinin couldn't help but smile. Big brother, we're not in a war now, so you can put that away. Haha, I can't help it, it's an occupational hazard. You guys clean up the cave, I'll go find a water source. Chapter 979. The nearest water source to the cave was not far away. There was a gurgling stream a mile away. Night had officially fallen. Only the flapping of the wings of birds returning to their nests and the hissing of some small poisonous snakes crawling among the branches and leaves in search of food could be heard. Lin Muyu did not fly. He carried the body of the holy wolf on his shoulder and walked step by step under the giant trees in the jungle with the Xianyuan sword in one hand. Rustle. The sound of the leaves rustling in the branches in the distance also attracted his attention. As a professional soldier who had fought in wars for more than 10 years, Lin Muyu's vigilance was not comparable to that of ordinary practitioners. He suddenly stopped and stood in the jungle like a silent statue. He did not continue until the spiritual pulse technique confirmed that there was no unusual movement. When he came to the stream, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. It was a very big stream, at least 2 meters deep, and the water was so clear that he could see the bottom. There were no animals drinking on either side, causing the lush forest to be filled with a deathly stillness. He squatted down and skinned the holy wolf's corpse. He didn't waste a single bit and kept all of the meat because he didn't know what to eat next after eating this. After sorting out the entire wolf's meat, he began to fetch water. The water bag he used to fetch water was a reserve water bag made from the skin of a giant beast. It was bulging and filled to the brim, equivalent to at least 3 large buckets of water. When Lin Muyu put down the water bag complacently and was about to clean up the wolf's meat, suddenly there was a strange ripple in the water. He slowly put down the wolf's meat and raised his hand to pull out the Xianyuan sword. He looked at the water like a torch. There was indeed something strange just now. The ripple did not seem to be caused by something on the water surface, and there were no fish in the stream at all. The ripple just now came from the bottom of the water. The ripple formed by the stream hitting the pebbles at the bottom of the water was very regular, completely different from the ripple just now. Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu raised the Xianyuan sword with one hand and suddenly opened his left hand. He shouted in a low voice, "All phenomena of heaven and earth, listen to my command. Rise." Splash. Under the control of the invisible elephant spell, the stream rose rapidly and a voice came from the water, "You're courting death." Sure enough, there was someone in the seemingly transparent stream. No, it should be a god. Whoosh. A transparent figure dashed out of the stream with a curtain of water droplets. It was a completely transparent person hidden in the water. He raised his palm and condensed a dazzling ice crystal blade. He slashed at Lin Muyu's neck at an astonishing speed. His moves were ruthless, completely aiming to take his opponent's life. Lin Muyu instantly understood that the person in front of her did not come with good intentions. Her body quickly leaned back, and in an instant she completed a beautiful iron bridge. Under the condition of avoiding the opponent's attack, her combat boots, which were imbued with supreme divine power, violently kicked upwards. With a ping sound, countless splashes were scattered, but at the same time, this invisible killer was kicked out of the range of the water. Shoo. The opponent slid a few meters away along the grass and rocks. With a shake of his arm, the heat evaporated, and in the blink of an eye, the water on his body evaporated. After the water evaporated, he became transparent again and could no longer be captured by Lin Muyu's naked eyes. Moreover, his control of aura was exquisite. Even if Lin Muyu could capture his aura, she would not be able to launch an attack based on the location of the aura. After all, with just the aura but not the image of the opponent, it was impossible to predict the attack and the angle of the attack. In for a penny, in for a pound. Lin Muyu quickly took a few steps back, raised her palm and shouted, "The invisible elephant, borrow the momentum." Boom. The forest within dozens of meters was instantly crushed into powder, but it seemed like the opponent had dodged this attack. Who? Lin Muyu took a deep breath. When she kicked the opponent's ankle just now, she could feel the continuous waves of divine power. This person had more than 70 waves of divine power, which meant that he was a rather powerful emperor god. Moreover, he could hide his body, which made it even more difficult to deal with. Making a prompt decision, Lin Muyu raised her arms and shouted, "Acatosaurus, turn into armor." The Acatosaurus in the alternate dimension appeared quickly and turned into pieces of blood-red lotus armor that attached to the owner's body, forming a very close-fitting armor. Moreover, it was connected to the owner's bloodline and had great defensive power. Buzz. A hurricane came from behind her, and Lin Muyu quickly turned around and raised the dragon blood shield. After a "pa" sound, the dragon blood shield only trembled slightly. Not good. Lin Muyu cursed in her heart. She had been tricked. At this moment, a cold wind came from the left. It was a palm condensed with icicles, and it blasted towards Lin Muyu's left shoulder like a sharp sword. Pung! A muffled sound rang out. This hit landed squarely on the divine wall. The light from the divine wall splattered all over the ground. Another hit would probably shatter Lin Muyu's divine wall. The situation was very unfavorable, and Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. Although this person only had 70 grotto heavens, the ancient experts in the prehistoric mystic realm were indeed very strong. This 70th grotto heaven was not any weaker than Bailey Qin's 87th grotto heaven Emperor God, and might even be stronger. The sharp ice law divine power was bone-chilling, and it had already caused Lin Muyu's left arm to feel a little numb. After the attack, the opponent disappeared again, and all Lin Muyu could do was to control the invisible elephant art. Suddenly, her battle boots landed on the ground, and the flames turned into a shockwave that spread to the surroundings. Shwa! Within the flames, a figure appeared, and it was him. Without a word, Lin Muyu raised the Xianyuan sword and locked onto the opponent with her domain. The invisible elephant art borrowed the momentum of the mountains to descend from the sky, and the 5 elements 8 wastelands annihilation landed on the opponent's head. Hong! The raging flames expanded, and Lin Muyu's attack caught the opponent off guard. In addition to the Xianyuan sword's overwhelming righteousness and sharpness, it directly sliced through the opponent's god wall. With a poochie sound, the blade slashed across his chest and a wound was formed. Fresh blood splattered, and the opponent was already heavily injured. He could only blame himself for underestimating his opponent, and he didn't expect Lin Muyu's weapon to be so powerful. Since he was bleeding, he wouldn't be able to hide anymore, and the blood would betray his tracks. His figure slowly appeared and a hideous face appeared. He looked at the sword in Lin Muyu's hand in shock and said, "Where did your weapon come from?" Lin Muyu didn't say anything, and she waved her sword horizontally. 6 element heavenly tribulation. Chatting during a battle wasn't a good habit, and chatting after crippling the enemy was the quality of a true expert. But this 70th level grotto heaven powerhouse clearly wasn't that easy to cripple. Ice and snow fluttered in the air, and an expert with the law of ice was always very difficult to deal with. Fortunately, the law of fire was one of the laws that Lin Muyu mainly cultivated, and the intensity of the flames was comparable to the divine power of the overgod of fire, and it was enough to deal with this level of law of ice. Thus, in a short period of 3 minutes, the two sides exchanged dozens of attacks, and in the end, the injured powerhouse finally couldn't resist Lin Muyu's crazy attacks and was defeated, and he fell into a broken patch of thorns, and his breath was more out than in. Sha. Qin Yin, Shi Yan and Tang Xiaoxi also appeared at the edge of the stream, but they didn't participate in the battle. They all knew that this was Lin Muyu's battle, and also his cultivation. "Who are you?" Lin Muyu carried the Xianyuan sword, walked forward and asked with a cold face, "Why do you want to kill me?" The ugly man's face was pale and he said, "You stole the spirit fruit from the holy orchard, and killed the domain lord's holy wolf. As the domain lord's friend, I naturally want to kill you, but you stole someone else's spirit fruit and killed the holy wolf guardian. You deserve to die." "Domain lord? Who is he? Is someone like you worthy to ask the domain lord's name?" As he spoke, the ugly man suddenly raised his arm, and his entire arm was quickly covered in icicles, and it shot towards Lin Muyu's chest with lightning speed. Lin Muyu's movements were very light, and with a raise of his hand, the sword flew out and the man's head flew off. A piece of divine spark with ice lingering around it slowly condensed above the head. "Seems like we've gotten into big trouble," he said unhurriedly. "Domain lord, I wonder who he is." Shi Yan frowned and said, "But we've indeed gotten into big trouble. What do you think of this person's strength?" "Very strong." Lin Muyu looked at the opponent's corpse and said, "If I hadn't underestimated the sharpness of the Xianyuan sword and had my divine wall broken, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to determine the victor within 100 moves. What do we do now?" "Go back to the cave and eat and drink to your heart's content. Who wants this divine spark?" "You keep it, none of us cultivate the law of ice." Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Amen. Lin Muyu grabbed the divine spark and threw it into her Qingkuan bag, then picked up the half-burnt wolf head and returned to the cave with the water bag. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi began to cultivate their own mental cultivation methods, and sat cross-legged in the cave without moving. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu began to refine the ugly man's divine spark, and transferred the divine power to Shi Yan. Shi Yan's body was empty, and needed this external divine power to refine and make it her own. "This person's body is transparent." Lin Muyu recalled the previous battle. Shi Yan said, It's the law of dark light, a branch of the law of light. Cultivators of the law of dark light can use the power of illusory light to make their bodies transparent. These people are very difficult to deal with unless you can kill them in one strike. I was almost injured. Lin Muyu looked up at Shiyin, who was bathed in holy light, and said, Sister Shiyin, why aren't you absorbing divine power anymore? I'm full. Shiyin frowned slightly and said, This is the limit of what I can refine today. You can absorb the rest yourself. Lin Muyu lowered her head to look at the frost godhood revolving in her palm. Although there were spirit fruits and abundant spirit energy in this ancient mystic realm, the level of danger was probably no less than that of the Shattered Cauldron world. It would not be easy to survive or even establish a foothold here. Chapter 980. Overnight, the spiritual energy in Lin Muyu's body showed no signs of drying up under the shapeless elephant spell. The spiritual energy turned into divine energy and grew endlessly. This was the powerful effect of the spiritual fruit. The peace heart berry was indeed a great treasure. Eating one could greatly increase the effects of one's cultivation. In addition to the abundant spiritual energy in the arcane realm, Lin Muyu felt that the energy in her body had increased significantly. It was at least equivalent to 10 to 15 days of cultivation in the Shattered Cauldron realm. On the side, Qinyin, who was lying under the blanket, woke up with a moan. She had fallen asleep unknowingly during her cultivation. It was only because Lin Muyu had spread out the blanket in her cosmos sack that she could sleep so comfortably. Her clear, golden eyes were wide open. Qinyin looked at Lin Muyu. She didn't say anything. Lin Muyu didn't say anything either. She just lovingly caressed Qinyin's snow-white face with the back of her finger. Qinyin, on the other hand, closed her eyes and pressed her face against Lin Muyu's palm like a beautiful kitten. Is it morning? Shiyin opened her eyes and asked. Lin Muyu looked at the ray of sunlight that seeped into the cave and said, It's morning. Sister Shiyin, how do you feel? I've recovered some of my energy, but it's not enough to turn into light divine energy. Shiyin opened her palm and let out a soft cry. A ball of milky white fighting energy appeared in her palm. She had recovered to the heavenly realm in one night, and this energy hadn't dissipated. This proved that Ziyao and the 7 luminaries demon emperor's deduction was correct. The results of Shiyan's cultivation in the primordial arcane realm wouldn't be lost because of the curse of the divine pact. That's great. Tang Xiaoxi sat up and smiled. So much energy has been recovered in just one day. Within a year, Sister Haiyan will definitely recover to the 99th Grotto Heaven realm. Hard to say. Shiyin smiled faintly and said, It's not as easy to reach the peak of 99 realms as you think. I'm well aware of the recovery speed of my strength. It's impossible for me to return to the peak within 3 years. Holding onto Lin Muyu's shoulder, Qinyin sat up and asked, What's the plan for today? Continue heading north or stay here? We can't stop. Lin Muyu shook her head. The 4 of us don't have much rations. As gods, we are far less dependent on food than mortals. However, if we keep training at a high intensity, then we must eat our fill every meal. We burned a lot of the holy wolf meat yesterday, so it's only enough for us to eat for 2 days at most. We must continue north and look for new food. Moreover, the spirit fruit won't last long. Perhaps there will be better spirit fruits along the way. We can't be satisfied with this. And, after packing up their belongings, they cooked another pot of wolf meat. Once everyone was full, they set off on their journey to gain experience. As soon as they left the cave, the sky outside was filled with the cries of eagles. There were 2 almost black eagles crying in the sky, and from time to time wind saws would fly across the sky. These wind saws came and went without a sound. It was too dangerous and no one would be willing to take the risk in the sky. Lin Muyu confirmed the direction and walked in front with her sword in hand. Qinyin protected Shiyin in the middle, and Tang Xiaoxi brought up the rear with her god artifact, Gus Spear. The group of people wandered aimlessly through the lush forest. Having just arrived at the secret ground, Lin Muyu knew nothing about this place. In fact, she didn't even have a map of the secret ground. This was not her style at all. Running around like a headless housefly was the worst feeling ever. Thankfully, the forest of the secret ground wasn't too lonely. At noon, Lin Muyu found some fruits on a huge tree. The fruits were as big as a disc and were entirely emerald green. They looked no different from watermelons, except that they were even more crystalline and translucent. Another spirit fruit? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Shiyin nodded and smiled. Yes, a spirit-cultivated melon. It's a spirit fruit that grows on trees. However, its effects are far inferior to the peaceheart berry and devil's palm banana. It's just a fruit that can quench thirst and nourish the body. After eating it, it can quench thirst and recover strength. As for other things, it's basically useless. But the weather is a little hot now. You go pick one. We'll rest for a while and eat. Yes. Lin Muyu leaped up from the ground and easily plucked a spirit-cultivated melon. When she landed on the ground, she placed it on a rock. She raised a finger, and sharp wind elemental law divine energy shot out from her fingertip. Like a divine weapon, she sliced the melon a few times in succession, just like she was slicing a watermelon. The spirit-cultivated melon had already been split into 16 pieces. The flesh inside was purple and emitted a faint fragrance. Here, Xiaoyin. He handed a piece to Qin. At the same time, he used his divine power to take a look. The spirit-cultivated melon was not poisonous and had a pure texture. Qin took a bite and smiled sweetly. So sweet. Thus, the four of them surrounded the rock and finished the spirit-cultivated melon. Then Lin Muyu took out the cooked meat from her universe bag and shared it with everyone as lunch. Although everyone's status was very high in their respective planes, this was an arcane realm. Everything had to be simple. The wolf meat was a little sour and it didn't taste very good. Even after it was poured with cooking wine, it still wasn't delicious. But this couldn't be helped. After all, it was the meat of a holy beast. It had sufficient spiritual power, so eating it was beneficial. Just as everyone finished eating the wolf meat, they suddenly heard a very subtle hissing sound. Mortals might not be able to hear it, but Lin Muyu and the others had sharp ears and eyes. They had long sensed a powerful aura approaching. Is it a holy beast? Lin Muyu asked. Something like that. Xian smiled. It's a snake. A snake? Yes. As expected, the grass parted, and a medium-sized venomous snake about 2 meters long slowly slithered out. Its scarlet eyes stared at everyone, and its head was a standard isosceles triangle. Poisonous? Lin Muyu frowned. There's no record of this snake in the Shattered Cauldron Realm's Book of 10,000 Beasts. Do you know it, Sister Xian? Flame petal snake. Look, the patterns on its back are in the shape of petals. It's very beautiful. Xian pursed her red lips and smiled. Although it's not very big, the flame petal snake is one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. A drop of its venom can kill 10 mammoths. It's a fire type, and it lives in volcanic areas all year round. It can withstand the magma and survive. The flame petal snake's meat is very delicious. After drinking it, it can prolong one's life and nourish one's beauty. Hee. You really know a lot. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's faces were filled with admiration. Xian said, when I was training in the myriad worlds and stars, I have walked through at least thousands of planes. Moreover, I have lived for tens of thousands of years, so there are too many things that I remember in my mind. Perhaps you think that I am more like an old monster. That's not true? Qin Yin hurriedly comforted her, but her face was a little pale. Lin Muyu glanced at Xian and said, which old monster can have such a perfect body and face like yours? If I brought you to my hometown Earth, Sister Xian, you're practically a peerless beauty that's 1 in 100 million. Not to mention being an old monster, how are those young women supposed to live with you? Lin Muyu's words were more powerful, and it almost made Xian beam with joy. Pushing Tang Xiaoxi's arm, Xian smiled and said, Xiaoxi, be careful of the flame petal snake's venom. Go and get rid of it. This is a venomous snake that's more than 20,000 years old, so its meat must be even more delicious. After getting rid of it, let you make snake meat soup for us. Not only will it nourish and beautify you, but it will also greatly improve your law of fire. Oh really? Yes. That's great. Tang Xiaoxi immediately carried her spear and floated away, but she didn't go near the venomous snake. After all, it was more than 20,000 years old and it was not that easy to deal with. She raised her palm from afar and cast a divine seal. Boom. The flame blasted a big pit on the ground, but it didn't kill the flame petal snake. Instead, a fiery red shadow dashed out of the flames and went straight to Tang Xiaoxi's face. It opened its mouth and spat out a scarlet venom. Be careful. Lin Muyu shouted. Tang Xiaoxi was not an ordinary person. She spread her 9 tails behind her and suddenly dodged the flame petal snake's venom. Then she thrust out her spear, and the tip of the spear was enshrouded in a fiery red flame. This was the attack of the Flaming Heart Blade, the power of the 2nd level of the Great Karmic Fire Technique. The Great Karmic Fire Technique was one of the S-level martial arts that Lin Muyu got from Lulu. It was also the most suitable martial arts technique for Tang Xiaoxi to practice. Naturally, she chose it. The Great Karmic Fire technique was a mental cultivation method for practicing the power of fire. It was completely different from the Fire God Seal, but as long as she practiced it to a higher level, it would be enough to improve Tang Xiaoxi's strength to a new level. In the blazing sound of the wind breaking, the Dig's spear directly pierced into the body of the flame petal snake. Immediately the orange-red blood burst out. Hiss, hiss! The flame petal snake raised its head again and spat out another mouthful of venom at Tang Xiaoxi in the air. However, Tang Xiaoxi was too fast. Her figure was as graceful as a butterfly, and she easily dodged it again. She exerted strength in her hand, and the spear penetrated the flame petal snake's body and nailed it to the rubble. Mu Shenyuan sword. Tang Xiaoxi was not willing to use the Fire God Seal anymore. It would burn the flame petal snake's body, and she would not be able to use it to make soup. Therefore, Lin Muyu's Shenyuan sword was the first choice for a weapon that could easily split a holy beast that had lived for tens of thousands of years. Almost without any hesitation, Lin Muyu raised her hand and threw the long sword out. She used her chi to control the sword from a super long distance, and the long sword slashed into the rubble with a clang. The flame petal snake's head suddenly flew far away, and its body kept wrapping around the handle of the Dig's spear. Even though it had lost its head, it was still struggling. Very good, it's taken care of. Shi Yan said with a smile. This flame petal snake is at least 2 meters long. It's enough for the 3 of us to have a full meal. You hurry up and keep it. Okay. Chapter 981. For the whole afternoon, they traveled straight north for nearly 70 miles, but they didn't find anything. They didn't find any spirit beasts or spirit fruits. Fortunately, they had enough harvest. The petal snake was enough to make the 3 beauties think about it for the whole afternoon. It was nourishing and beautifying. Who would complain about being too beautiful? Appearance was always a woman's greatest weakness. When night fell, Lin Muyu once again found a suitable campsite in the forest. She lit a bonfire, took out her military pot from her cosmos sack, and started to boil the soup. This petal snake was very sturdy. After peeling off its skin, it was chopped into pieces, filling up half the pot. After adding all kinds of seasonings, she started to cook it. Lin Muyu's culinary skills could only be considered average. She didn't learn much from a few old masters of the spiritual fire division and only knew how to eat. When the fragrance of the soup became stronger and stronger, the 3 beauties looked over with faces full of anticipation. Even the eyes of a blazing angel, Shi Yan, lit up like a young girl. It was really hard to imagine how a blazing angel who killed people like flies could have such a gentle gaze. Perhaps, she was really tired of war? As Lin Muyu stirred the soup, she thought to herself that when everyone stepped into the God the Arch realm and returned to the Shattered Cauldron realm from the Mystic realm, Shi Yan might have already recovered her cultivation. At that time, she would have to ask her for help in conquering the entire Celestial Pole mainland. Wouldn't that be making things difficult for her then? After all, Shi Yan was really tired of war and killing. She seemed to really enjoy the life of traveling with Qinin and Tang Xiaoxi. In her eyes, this kind of life was considered living. Who cares about her? Let's eat our fill first. Lin Muyu divided the soup into 3 big bowls and gave them to the 3 beauties. Although the snake meat looked a little scary, Shi Yan, Qinin, and Tang Xiaoxi were not ordinary girls. They had experienced countless killings, so eating snake meat was a piece of cake. The snake meat of the flame petal snake was very spicy. When Lin Muyu swallowed the first bite, he felt as if his throat was on fire. That kind of burning sensation was not something ordinary chili could compare to. When the meat entered his stomach, he felt as if a flame was burning inside his body. In just an instant, Lin Muyu's forehead was already covered with sweat. F***ck. He couldn't help but curse. At the side, the 3 beauties, Shi Yan, Qinin, and Tang Xiaoxi, stopped at the same time. They carefully tasted and endured the first bite of the flame petal snake meat. Among them, only Tang Xiaoxi was slightly better. After all, she was the most proficient in the law of fire among them. Her resistance to fire was also very strong. Lin Muyu had the Paragon personality and was proficient in the 12 laws. However, he mainly cultivated the law of fire, lightning, ice, wind, and so on. Fire was the law he was most proficient in. The first bite of the snake meat made him freeze for almost a minute before he could recover. However, once he endured the torture, he felt a very enjoyable warmth in his stomach. Rich fire spiritual energy seeped into every cell in his body. Shi Yan was right. A bite of the flame petal snake meat was equivalent to half a month of cultivation in the law of fire. Instantly, Lin Muyu had a new understanding of the primordial mystic land. How was this training? It was simply a foodie's journey. It could be learned by eating 99 great perfection celestial emperors. At the side, Tang Xiaoxi had completely enjoyed the meat stew. After eating, Tang Xiaoxi hid in a corner of the cave. Her body was surrounded by raging flames. She had to cultivate and integrate the spiritual power as quickly as possible. At the same time, she had to improve the cultivation of the great karmic fire technique. They traveled in the day and cultivated at night. This had become their cultivation routine in the primordial mystic land. However, Lin Muyu still maintained his vigilance. It was her duty to stand guard for everyone. Therefore, every day Lin Muyu only slept for 2 to 3 hours. However, it was enough. At some point in time, Shi Yan and Qin Yin had already fallen asleep. Tang Xiaoxi closed her eyes and continued cultivating. Lin Muyu hugged the Shenyuan sword and leaned close to the cave entrance. She squinted her eyes, but her spiritual perception was still on high alert. Suddenly he opened his eyes. A strong aura was invading. "Wake up. Someone is coming," he said in a low voice. Shi Yan and Qin Yin hurriedly sat up. The other party came very quickly. They were only 10 miles away and they arrived in a split second. Outside the cave, there was a burst of light and rays of light that penetrated the wall of space flickered. Lin Muyu looked on in awe. There were dozens of people appearing outside the cave in an instant. They were all experts of the God realm. The strongest were experts of the God Emperor realm. This group of people was dressed very strangely. They were dressed in the clothes of ancient humans. They looked gentle and refined, but they were all very strong. "This is bad." Shi Yan frowned. Lin Muyu walked out of the cave with the Shenyuan sword in her hand. She looked up at the people in the air. As the light flickered, there were still people arriving. There were more than dozens of them. There might be more than 100 of them. More than 100 God realm experts. This was indeed a big problem. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Shi Yan also walked out of the cave. They each took out their weapons and confronted the other party. "Dear friends, we've just arrived here. What's the meaning of this?" Lin Muyu smiled humbly. In the sky, a man said coldly, "You intruded into our Sparrow Spirit region without permission, yet you pretended to not know anything. Could it be that our region Lord Saint Wolf wasn't killed by you guys?" "The Saint Wolf?" Lin Muyu smiled. "We did kill a wolf that wanted to eat us, but we didn't know it was the Saint Wolf. This must be a misunderstanding. Who is the region Lord?" A middle-aged man in a black robe with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes said indifferently, "I am the region Lord of the Sparrow region, Feng Zhanlin." "Who are you?" "Judging from your attire, you are not from the 64 regions." "The 64 regions?" Lin Muyu was confused. "Region Lord Feng, my 3 companions and I came from the East Heaven realm. We borrowed your precious land to cultivate. We are all gods of the East Heaven realm. My name is Lin Muyu." "Greetings, region Lord. You are gods of the God realm?" Feng Zhanlin's eyes were cold. "The 64 regions and the God realm have always minded our own business. What are you trying to do recently? Last time, there was only one who came and turned the world upside down. This time there are 4 of them." With that, Feng Zhanlin stared at Lin Muyu's sword. "Your weapon, why does it have a special aura? Can I take a look?" "No." "Why?" Feng Zhanlin raised his eyebrows. Lin Muyu smiled. "Don't tell me there are no rules in the 64 domains? In my plane, the rule is that weapons and women are not to be lent to others." "How dare you speak to the region lord like that?" Another man in a red robe shouted. "Brat, don't think you are great just because you are from the God realm. Let me tell you, this is the ancient God realm. You are just some juniors here. It's no big deal. If you dare to disrespect the region lord again, I will make you pay." Feng Zhanlin said coldly, "Lin Muyu, since you killed my battle wolf, it seems you stole the devil's palm banana and Ningxinberry, right?" "Not stole, plucked. We didn't know it was the region lord who planted the spirit fruits. As the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty. Is this the case?" "The case." Feng Zhanlin laughed. "You're trying to reason with me? Then let me tell you, strength is reason. As long as you can defeat us, reason is on your side." "You mean, you have so many people? You want to fight me alone?" Lin Muyu frowned. "Can't I? Didn't you guys join forces to kill brother Lei Chuanxing?" "Who is Lei Chuanxing?" "Stop pretending," Feng Zhanlin said angrily. "If you cut off his head, I will also cut off your heads." Lin Muyu had already taken out a heavenly writing tool embryo. If it came down to it, she could only use the heavenly writing to escape. If they really fought, how could she win? There were more than 100 gods watching. Right at this time, Shi Yan's voice entered Lin Muyu's ears like the buzzing of a mosquito. "You hold my hand, circulate your formless elephant tactic, and lend me your supreme godhead's force. Let's see if I can intimidate them." Lin Muyu was at a loss. "Trust me or we'll be in big trouble," Shi Yan said. "All right then." Shi Yan stepped forward and held Lin Muyu's hand nonchalantly. She waved her other hand in front of her, and with a hum, the blazing moon sword slowly emerged. "Are you really going to fight?" Shi Yan smiled. Lin Muyu let out a muffled groan. The formless elephant tactic in her body spun rapidly, as if it was sucking the god force out of her body. She lent the supreme godhead's power to Shi Yan. Boom! A light element shockwave surged out. In the next moment, Shi Yan borrowed Lin Muyu's god force to enter her blazing angel form. 6 radiant wings spread out behind her, and the blazing moon sword shone brightly. Shi Yan's eyes were filled with killing intent, and the power of the 99 heavens surged. She gritted her teeth and said, "You bunch of reckless fools, do you really want to fight me?" Feng Zhanlin's face turned pale. He hurriedly landed on his knees and said, So it's Lord Blazing Angel. We have eyes but fail to recognize you. Please forgive us, Lord Blazing Angel." He turned around and looked at the crowd with a cold gaze. In an instant, over 100 gods fell to their knees. Majestic and domineering, this was the name of the Blazing Angel. Lin Muyu wanted to die. She saw that Shi Yan was an honest and kind girl, but she was even better at bluffing people than herself. She really had to give it to her. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi maintained a vigilant expression. Their power had increased a lot and they could more or less cheer Lin Muyu up. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, felt as if all of his power was being sucked away. With his current cultivation, he couldn't withstand such a strong aura. Shi Yan sensed Lin Muyu's uneasiness, so she retracted her 6 wings and returned to the gentle and quiet woman. She smiled and said, "Me and you have just arrived at the treasure land. Is this how the domain Lord Feng treats us?" Feng Zhanlin shuddered. I know I was wrong. Someone, invite Lord Blazing Angel and her friends back to the domain castle. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.